What is everybody? Welcome back to Truth and Transparency. I'm going to have a guest join me here in about 40 minutes. Yes. So what is up? What is good? Welcome back, Idaho4. Why wasn't Eric Gower's Lyft account subpoenaed? Why would we do something so, what do you want to call it? I don't know, just second nature. Like, dude says he works at Uber. What do you guys go and do? We go and get the Uber subpoena. Like, yeah, woo, search warrant. If it was to the Fed, subpoena, woo. Eric says he works for Lyft. And in fact, he said that one of the later calls, one of the last ones, it was a Lyft ride, supposedly, allegedly. Where is the Lyft subpoena? I just don't even, well, maybe this is what Elisa Mathis was saying. Massive. Yeah. She was like, we cannot get anything from the feds. So, I mean, I wanted to pull up something for you guys just to highlight one more time. Like, this is just ridiculous. Look at this. So are we supposed to believe, now this is Van Leuven writing this up about Jack D. I don't even know whether or not to believe this or not. Was there a telephone call that lasted 17 minutes between Kaylee's phone and Jack D's phone? You guys, 2:26 a.m. if you started at 2:26 a.m. and you add 17 minutes to 2:26. That's 2:43. And then she does not have anything else outgoing on her phone after 2:53. Satire, welcome to the membership world. Sue, welcome to the membership world. I just don't even know what to say about that. All right, hold on. We're going to pull up another part about this interview with Jack D. Well, first of all, if you go back to this whole ordeal, this was wrote up. I'm going to show you guys the date here. Look at this. 3/30/2023. Michael Van Leuven acts like he wrote the report, though, on 11/15. No, that's when you actually had the interview. It started on 11/15. But this, you met with him a couple different times. And Detective Sergeant Van Leuven interviewed Jack DeCour on several occasions beginning on November 15th. This supplement adds the audio from those interviews into evidence. On November 18th, he consented to have a search of his room, bathroom, and the common area downstairs, the laundry. Forensic scientist Carrie Hogan, Jeff Talbot, and I entered the apartment at 8:17 on the 18th. Dude, you just had finished interviewing Eric Gower. Okay? You were just with his vehicle, Eric Gower's vehicle. And y'all say there is nothing here to see. And you immediately leave that. And then you run over to Jack DeCour's, house. After searching the areas Jack had consented, we found a drop of possible blood on a wall of entry, and it was Jack D's blood. A sample of this was collected. We also noted that they could have had 5 or 6 small drops or runs of blood on a kitchen wall. Again, None of it's the victims. I had additional follow-up questions with Jack on November 18th, November 21st, and November 22nd. The conversations on the 21st and 22nd were recorded and are on the disc. What about the 18th, 17th? The remainder of my conversation with Jack on November 17th involved victimology-related questions. Please see the audio recording for more details. Mm-hmm. Oh, you guys, this is my Santa mug. 4 stages of a man's life. You believe in Santa. You don't believe in Santa. 3 is you are Santa. And then 4 is you look like Santa. This is Bill Thompson's mug. Okay, so just want to let you guys, just remind you guys of this timeline. Van Leuven interviewing Eric, and Eric saying, oh, I went to Indian Hills, right? We're going to go big into this right now. But immediately after that interview, he's got to run over to Jack DeCour's because they say that there's nothing, they don't even note any of the interview with the notes to saying, oh, Eric had totally cleaned out his car. Bill Thompson literally had a heart attack talking about Bryan Kohberger's car being so clean. Here, they're not even writing down. Like, you could have a field day with this as a defense attorney. Unless you're Jennifer Thompson, who just absolutely sucks. God, I mean, I cannot believe that. How is that woman death penalty certified? That was a death penalty case. The Holly Bobo case. She couldn't get a question up to save her life, man. Anyways, lost for words here. Okay, we're going to look at, I have another pick for us to go to town on. God, what's going on? We're going to look at, here we go. Now, Indian Hills. I'm going to share with you guys a sweet little video. Because back in the day, I went out like a crazy person and was exploring all over there in Indian Hills land. Okay, I think this is going to work. Okay. Look at this shit. Hold on one second. Okay. All right, where we're at right here. Okay. This is right at this is 1125 Ridge Road. Over there would be the camera. So I'm going to back up and just show you guys how long we have here when you turn on here. Okay. So please pay attention when he crosses over. I mean, if I have to slow it down, I will. But okay, right here, because right where he's coming to this intersection, they're using that A&W right off to the right there. There's a camera there at the A&W, and they're trying to pass off a car coming from right here over, and it's the same as the car that's going to be seen on 1125. But then now we realize that, holy shit, it's, they lied about all this crap. But I want you guys to see how many, like where this car could be truly coming from that's not the car that's coming from Indian Hills. Okay. So take a look at all of these possibilities with me. So okay, right off to the right there, that's the A&W that we're like literally just passing. Now, you have a street right there that's like Lentner, okay? And then you have Levick coming up. And these are all apartments back in there, okay? All apartments back in here. Now, do you see this car right here on the right? Right there, that's just chilling right there. As we're driving up to it, let's take a look one more time. I'm going to slow this down. There is a guy that came in as a retired cop that saw somebody, putting his belongings, who was like 6'1", tall, skinny, white dude. And it wasn't right here, but look at all these lovely little apartments and houses off all this shit. So a vehicle could have come out at any point in time out of any one of these apartment complexes. And then they're like, they go deeper. So you have to, like, if you keep on driving, when you make like a left into any one of these entrances, you drive back and there's a bunch of apartments. But right here at this little intersection here, this is where that dude said, hey, I saw somebody like packing up and like, late at night, a white sedan. Thought maybe I should tell you about it. And he said he thought it was just like right after they asked about this white sedan car is when he then came forward, and it was literally on the same day that they got the name Bryan Kohberger, allegedly, supposedly December 19th. But all these options for a car to turn off and no longer be this car, right? Because if it's not the same, there's not enough time. A car had to be coming out of there way earlier, and then it just, wow, we're going to go with that. We're going to make it seem like this car's that car. Now, if you were to actually see this in a trial and you were a juror, and I presented this information because we actually like had all like the cams, we were using them. Can you imagine on cross-examination if you're going to use this and you actually knew what you were doing because you knew the case? You don't have to be a lawyer to know the case and be able to cross-examine someone, because it's basically asking questions like, well, isn't it true that this? Oh, it's not? Okay, well, can you please take a look at, and then you just go through it. But if you don't know the material, you will never be able to cross-examine anybody. You have to know your case. It's like very, very important. And so I kept thinking to myself, like, when Howard Bloom said the other night, last night when we were reading it, or whenever he wrote it, we read it though together. Or was that today? All these days just keep going together. But it was like, basically, would the touch DNA on the sheath be enough? Because that's all you got. Okay. And then you can go ahead and say your circumstantial stuff, which is the phone wasn't on during the commission of the crime. But guess what? You're going to actually move the time of the crime. So then you're going to be saying, yeah, actually his phone was on because it happened and it started, way back at this time. And then it took so much longer to clean up. And so he couldn't have possibly been pinging over in Blaine at 4:48. Okay, like I think that's the boom, the dagger is just like he can't possibly be pinging at 4:48 in Blaine. Okay, so when you would hear this as a juror, if I was to hear all this and I'm able to show the jury how the cops more or less tried to trick y'all into believing that the car that's not the car, they're trying to trick you into believing that is the car, wouldn't that just set you to be like, dude, this is not guilty all day? Not because fuck, no idea if he did it or he didn't do it, but this is this is enough to be outraged as a juror if you haven't been following this case to know anything about it. And this, obviously the seriousness of this crime, this is horrible. And to think that I was a juror in a case where they showed me fabricated evidence, they tried to trick us. What would you do? The state was going to lose trust in the jury every single day. Their credibility was going to go boom, 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 boom. And it's once you would see this crime scene, and if the defense attorney did their job to say, you guys, this person had to have cleaned up. Okay. I've been harping and saying that this all has to happen because of Dylan and Bethany's text messages all within this, short time, tiny time, as well as the car and everything. But you guys, there's another huge piece that is why you have to have this happen at that time. And that's the Blaine pinging. And so when I was prepping for this live, I was like, oh my God, hello, we are totally need to blast this part of it, which is, you guys, the Blaine pinging of that cell phone and then the continuation of what they're saying this car is doing, how is Bryan's phone pinging by 4:48 over in the off the tower in Blaine? There is no way that if that crime is happening when they're saying that it started, would the jurors, I think that you're going to be able to show that there's just no, you need more time to be able to clean this up. And so when you show that Bryan's phone's over here and over here and over here, right? I think that's pretty, how could he be there cleaning up? Because he's still needed at the crime scene, right? So think about that. Think about that. I think it's really, really big. I think it's, now, if you guys joined me earlier today, I was on a mission, right? To find out whose Doc Martens those were, right? And I think that we can say that right now they belong to Dylan. Dylan, can you guys find Doc Martens in Dylan's room? Because we found them in Maddie's room, Kaylee's room, Bethany's room. Whose Doc Martens are those? And nobody, the only person that had Doc Martens on between Kaylee and Maddie was Maddie. And Maddie was upstairs, kicking those puppies off, right? No? Yep. Maybe. We found Bethany's, so they're not Bethany's. All right, so all of these options right here, your vehicle, And then you would have shown, oh, that timestamp and this timestamp. When the jury was going to see that, it's like, what? Yeah, this can't be possibly the car. Then you talk about the fog lights, and then you're just like totally like, whoa. I cannot wait to see the rebuttal for the path of travel, or the identification of the car, rather. Oh, speaking of which, I got my first witness list interview. I tell you guys about this yet? I've only reached out to a couple people that have been on the witness list, and I got my first. Okay, let's do it. I would love to talk about the case with you if you are still interested. Just let me know when would be a good time. And I said, oh my goodness. So I was like, yep. So I got my first yes. When I'm talking about like, okay, let me take that back, because that's kind of not my first witness that I've never talked to prior to knowing that they were on the witness list. Okay. Like, and it's somebody from the defense's witness list. And it's somebody that I did not know existed prior to finding that, getting that witness list. We stalked the show, that witness list. And when I say stalked, we like looked into who these people could potentially be, There's a lot of people, there's a lot of similar names out there, like Kenneth Miller. Like, really, come on, man. Okay, so I'm using this video to show a couple of things, which is right here. Back up just a tad. This is where this is where Gower says he pulled off. So there's a, right here's a dumpster, and then right there's a dumpster. So, but he pulls right over here to supposedly clean out, he says, the backseat of that car. And it's almost like, come on, man. Why did you pull off, and who'd you actually talk to? Okay. Gonna back up one more time here, right there. All right. Where do we think Eric is saying that this silver car was like parked off? Because the silver car mixed with the silver car and the black SUV, it created difficulty for him, when he was. And I'm thinking, I would love to ask Eric if the vehicle was parked the opposite way, facing, coming down the hill, but on the right-hand side, which should have been like right on the right-hand side, right where that little sign is, right over there. Or was it in front of it? Why did this silver vehicle stick out to Mr. Gower? And then, how come we have no reports of who had that white, loud Okay, right there. I want you guys to take a look at not this first car, but this second car. When you pause it, see, I got that slanted back windows, and I was just, baby. I've never seen yet like a neighborhood canvas of all the vehicles that were like registered. Like the FBI have to have those, and that just was never given and made into like a report that any agency like Moscow or Idaho State Police did. But like, it's a no-brainer to do a neighborhood canvassing with the vehicles. There's that white van again. What's up, H bag? What you doing? That white van, just can't get away from that man. All right. It's so dark over there. Okay, remember that guy said he changed his cameras. So now that we've known, like, we're getting to know more things as we're like uncovering the discovery, right? So the guy at 40451 Paradise, he's like, oh, I changed my cameras, you know. So he's going nice and slow because we're gonna get. Oh, I should back up a little bit. Look at how dark it is right here. Off here to the left is gonna be. There's right there. Would be. God, can I see what's in the driveway here? You guys know what kind of vehicle that is, right? That's that little truck. Okay, let's get to over here where it gets to. Okay, right here. This is 451. There it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sweetness. Awesome. All right, I want to look at one other one. We're gonna put up another video now. All right, do you remember one of the guys from the John's Alley? He went out and he's like, I got to ride home, and it was from like a cop, right? Cop. Well, I was like, we have that interview. Let's see. I asked Blank if he had heard any noises that could have woken him. Blank said no. He did say his friend Blank told him he heard a dog barking between the hours of 4:15 and 5. Blank said it sounded like Murphy. Murphy was a dog who was shared between their two houses. Remember that? Blank said that he heard Blank was kicked out of John's Alley. After John's Alley, the three of them went to the grub truck, and he believed they went home afterwards. The people that got kicked out of John's Alley. Hang tight. Okay, so at 2:15, when Xana made the DoorDash order at 2:15, that took, an hour and 45 minutes to make its way. Where was she located? So Xana was with a girl until 2 a.m. She took a picture with her and walked home. Xana and Ethan remained at the party. She had no further contact with them. And then so she provided like the screenshot, okay? Or the picture that she took. So these are one of the interviews that I'm using for timeline. So what let's see. Ooh. Here we go, maybe. We're gonna share this up. Window. Okay. Blank reported walking up after hearing a dog go berserk barking outside. Or waking up, rather. Sorry. Blank estimated the dog was barking for 30 to 45 minutes before he looked at his phone and saw it was 4:45. Blank reported 5 to 10 minutes after 4:45 hours, the dog quit barking. Simon Getty's interview is coming up next, by the way. We're going to talk about how many times that kid wanted to insert himself. We're going to talk about Tyler, Matt, Moye, all these lovely peeps. Oopsies. Who all took an Uber that night home? Weird shit. Okay, tip. Cody. Okay. More. God, he just shoved all this shit on here. Okay, Blank said he said approximately 10 minutes and walked home. Once I dropped off Blank and went to so-called eat. After he ate, went to the house and stayed there the night. Describe the activities. I think it's just a little bit past this. Okay, 5. Blank told detectives while she was at the hotel, Blank told them she saw someone in the house wearing a ski mask and had made eye contact with them, but didn't know what was going on because she was out of it. This struck Blank as odd because she remembered Blank saying she wasn't getting drunk that night. Blank also said in a previous point in the interview that shortly after Blank moved into the house, whether it's Dylan, right? She had made comments about not feeling safe at the house because of where her room was in relation to the door, and she felt she was being watched. Blank, meaning Dylan, did not know anything further, or this person didn't know anything further, but that's all about Dylan. So Dylan is telling people that she believes that she was being stalked. um Gary Tolson. Gary Tolson, you just are horrible. Hold on, guys. I'm looking for a very important interview here. It's with our guy that went to John's Alley and said that he got a ride from a cop. I've been on the hunt. Okay, approximately blank left Mingles. Blank drove to the blank, drop off the blank to the car, call and the blank. This is where my first time. I can hang out with him. Hang out with her other friends, follow the club. Okay. God bless it. Shit. Oh, neighborhood canvas. Okay. This is another thing I was looking for. What? Hmm. Hold on. Do we have some new? We have a new episode here. FNULNU is a weird name. Oh, that's funny. Oh, hold on, guys. I'm pulling up something I think that we're going to thoroughly. I think that we got a new episode of something. Oh, wow. There is. Nancy had on the Gonsalves family. I think this just dropped. Okay. Nancy's title is Hell Pics. Horror photos inside Idaho murders after Kohberger slaughtered students. Parents sue.
The rest was just gore. One probative photo that actually meant something, that proved something, and that was the location of the knife sheath. Joining me right now, two very special guests, the parents of the beautiful Kelly Gonsalves. Thank you to both of you for being with us. It means so much that at this moment, when you are under siege again, that you take time to be with us tonight. So thank you. I've got so much to talk to you about. Of course, Bryan Kohberger's sister does a New York Times article whining about how hurt she is and the pain her family's going through. Really? But before I get to her, what about these?
Wait, why, Nancy? Why? How is Bryan Kohberger's sister not a victim in all of this? Her life is forever fucking changed, man. Oh man.
Photos. When did you? Now, this is what we're learning, Christy. We're learning that the Idaho State Police put these on their website and then quickly went and scrubbed the whole thing. They were leaked onto the website. What happened when you first learned these pictures from hell had been released?
Well, actually, one of the Idaho State Police detectives called Olivia and told her that the photos were coming out, and they were a different entity as the other ones were that were underneath the order that the Laramies and the Chapins won, being able to not show bodies or blood, and these were going to be a little different. The bodies were going to be redacted, but the crime scene was going to be pretty evident. So this entity called Olivia. By the time she got off the phone, she was calling me in a panic and telling me that they were coming out, and they were out. They were already on the website. Olivia is pretty adamant about, viewing things and wants to know what's out there. She doesn't just want to come upon something and be surprised. So somewhere along the line, it was very apparent that there were three pictures that showed the victims that did not get redacted. And it came down. It came down because there were three. But whoever had downloaded those in that time frame before, I don't know how long it was up, have those pictures of actual victims. So it's very sad.
Yeah, this whole thing has turned into a profit-making enterprise. The day before, they told us that because somebody complained that did FOIA requests that the families were getting the photos at the same time, we no longer get the photos. We don't get any of the discovery from these images or anything that's been a FOIA request. They get it first, and then we can get it after them.
Did you see a photo?
Okay, so that's true. So I want to talk about that. Like Steve's right. Let me explain that. Okay. So I'm going to make this. Okay. This is how this works. This is how Moscow has made it. Moscow has made it so that if you put in the FOIA request for an item and it's the first one in order, so that means if, I go through my little stuff that I have here and I say, okay, I'm going to go request supplemental, 462 and supplemental, whatever, 3. You have to pay. So you go ahead and you put that in and you say that you want whatever you want from it. I want the audio and video recording. If you think that there's something else that's there from it, like I want the all the screenshots that were shown during the interview. I want, if you can really narrow in on what was provided, you put your list, and then when you send it in, then they get back to you. And if you're the first one to have asked for that, okay, that means all the work is being done on your FOIA for you, and you have to put a deposit down on it. Okay. And that deposit is half, you have to put down 50%, half of whatever the cost that they've pretty much they do it. It's like this is your estimate cost. Okay. So if it comes back and, hey, this is going to be like $750. Do you want it? Then you have to go ahead and and then, all right, here's my 350, right? And then it's going to take anywhere between a couple weeks to my dog paper, months for my dog paper. I'm like, how the fuck is this taking months to get? This is one piece of paper. Anyways, so then when they're done with it, then they call you or they email you and you pay the remaining balance. Okay. And then that gets that FOIA then is yours, and they send it to you, and then they wait, and then you can do duplicate. Like if you want to ask for, if you see, oh my God, Lana has whatever out there, you then have to go do a FOIA request, put in for the duplicate fee, which would be $30, and everything that I paid for in full, you're getting for $30, and they give it to you. You know, it's not like you get put on some list that it's like, hey, anytime a new FOIA gets dropped by somebody else, call me up and I'm going to give you my card and you can just run the 30. Like you have to specifically put in for the request. And that's how we found out, though, the past couple weeks when we had to have a phone call. I was like, how are my FOIA requests going to other people? And then they were like, we are very sorry, Lana. We actually caught, they're over there apologizing to Bella and saying, yeah, we saw that we made a mistake. I'm like, okay. Well, what? Like, I've never seen, Columbus, they started doing like the whole thing that they'll charge you for yours, but the first 2 hours are free. So what's nuts to me is that when I'm so specific and I tell you exactly where to go and get it, you should be able to retrieve this stuff in we're talking a couple minutes. And then if you're not being ridiculous with what you're redacting and how much time you're spending on it, truth be told, there should not be these big astronomical fees that you're paying. Okay. But if you're not if you were to write hey, I want everything, if you're not specific, then yeah.
We no longer get the photos. We don't get any of these. We're getting just that because somebody complained that did FOIA requests that the families were getting the photos at the same time. We no longer get the photos. We don't get any of the discovery from these images or anything that's been a FOIA request. They get it first. And
somebody complained that the families were getting the FOIAs at the same time. Who the fuck would call in and say that shit? Hey, I would just like to call in and say, why are the families? But you want to know what? I believe that somebody did it. And it ain't fucking me. I'm over here give these parents anything and everything they want. Anybody that feels differently, I'm sorry, but I think you're a complete fucking idiot. And come hit my link so I can tell you that you're a complete fucking idiot to yourself, to your face. But for the families being told, and they're like, well, we just have to follow, this is policy, we have to follow it. I get that. And that's why I'm over here dude, whatever I have, any of the families can have whenever, no charge here, please. You know what I mean? And anybody else who would not feel the same way, I'm just what is wrong with y'all?
And then we can get it after them.
Did you see a photo with the students? I'm trying to choose my words carefully, but I don't have another way to say it. Did you see photos, crime scene photos, horrific, bloody crime scene photos with the victims' bodies in the photos? Did you see that?
Unfortunately, yes.
I don't understand why they can't ever do the right thing, Steve. They did not take this case to trial. They did not find out the truth. This was a death penalty case. If we're going to have the death penalty, this is it.
I agree with that completely, Nancy. We're on the same page there, that if the death penalty should ever exist, this is a case that it would exist in, especially once you actually see the crime scene, right? These four students weren't sleeping. Like Kathy Mabut, I don't know like how she sleeps at night, but that she could like literally just go out there. I shouldn't even say go out there. She allowed people to come into her office and interview her. Okay. Well, she just blatantly fucking lied to everybody. She should have just said no comment. People just don't have any self-pride anymore. Fuck, they probably never had to begin with.
Took a weak plea. We never learned the whole truth. They wouldn't do the right thing. And now they are buckling under to a FOIA request.
Do you understand that? What do you mean? Come on, Nancy, you know how FOIA requests work. Like, what do you mean buckling to a FOIA request? That's the fucking statute. Like, what do you mean? Like, that's just a horrible argument. But the thing is that this all would have come out if there was a trial, okay? But guess what? It would all come out at the same time. Here's this trial. Like, you know what's like coming. There is none of these surprises. Like, I think we were all probably pretty shocked, right? When Idaho State Police drops 2,700 photos, right? Were you guys surprised? I think every single person out there was surprised, right? Well, if we would have had a trial, there was that daily surprise that they're going through wouldn't be happening, you know? And or like just that feeling like it shouldn't happen. But Bill Thompson lied to these parents. He told each parent what they, because I feel like probably not even the G's though. He told people that this stuff was never going to come out. And that's why I think parents took the plea deal, that we're all for it, because of how they were lied to. But if they had lawyers, they should have been telling their clients that I don't care what Bill Thompson is telling you. This is the law. Okay. X, Y, and Z. But taking a plea deal is not going to prevent any of this from coming out.
But they don't even have the courtesy to give it to you first. Do they pick and choose when to follow the law?
Well,
yeah.
Well, that's interesting, Nancy. I agree with you on that. They do pick and choose when to follow the law. But if in this case, they haven't followed the law ever, not once. It's been, it's been a shit show since the beginning. I mean, Howard Bloom comes out and tells the world yesterday that he was reading in basically real time the investigative reports, the supplementals, until there was basically an arrest. Like, what?
To the other family that ever goes through a case like this, just know they're going to lie to you. They're going to tell you in your weakest moment that if you just want to make it go away, just go along with the plea, just go along and all this stuff will go away. And I had legal counsel and they were like, that's not going to go away, Steve. They're just lying to these families, trying to divide them so that they can get at least somebody to agree with what they're doing. And then that's all they need.
Yes, Steve. Yes. See, guys, exactly. Yes, that's exactly. Boom. Says it. Hell yeah. That's exactly what they did.
Even though there's 4 victims and you can get a death penalty for 1, they wanted to break us apart to help their narrative. And we're still dealing with it. We're still dealing with it right
They're going to deal with it for a long
Well, I've got
time.
to tell you something, Mr. and Mrs. Gonsalves. After my fiance was murdered, of course, I was a witness at the time. I didn't know anything about the justice system at all. When I came off the witness stand, it was way high up by the judge's hound. And I walked out and I looked over and I saw Keith's bloody shirt. And I was just a young girl, but I will never forget that morning when he left. It was lying on the council. Years after you've seen how.
So, I chose to look very quickly. Unfortunately, sometimes it just gets me. Other times I'm no, but I was like, I gotta, and I did not look at a lot. I did not look, for long. I pretty much was out of there like quickly, but it's hard to unsee. And I knew that. I knew it would happen.
What about it, Steve?
I haven't seen very many. On the ones that I've seen are just ones that my family wanted me to comment on if it was as bad as, basically showing me, like, seeing the victims in body bags, things that they're not entertainment. I mean, they're for investigations. They're and if you're not going to have a trial, you really don't have the same investigation at that point. It's not a need to know. It's not the community, and you're not having a jury. So it's kind of frustrating that we're still dealing with
And
it.
we get a lot of heat over this because people say, you guys are no different. It is very common for crime scene photos to come out. I get that. I understand that. I feel bad for those families that their loved ones are out there and this has happened. But I just feel like times are changing, and what people do with those photos nowadays is what the real problem is. Blow them up on social media and analyze them and talk about them. It's not true crime anymore. It's troll crime, and
Well, all I can say is I hope that we don't represent ourselves like that. So
that's
and
where
I don't believe that we do.
things are changing, and it has been for quite a while.
They're making a profit off your dead loved ones, and that was
They're
going
relishing
on.
in it.
Yeah, and that was to a lesser extent before, but like your organization isn't showing them, you're not going to get that same kind of professionalism in some of these smaller true crime people.
Yeah, no.
Some of them do, though.
I remember years ago on it was my very first book. It was called Objection, and I wrote a chapter called Blood Money, and I was so stunned that people got a hold of Nicole Brown's autopsy photo.
Wait. What do you mean people did? Come on, Nancy. Who did? How did people get it? Money. People leaked that for money. And who could only possibly leak that?
And we're selling them. After I wrote that chapter, Blood Money, I had this cheap little, it was like a $200 laptop. It's like this big that I wrote the book on. When I finished that chapter, I had to look up so many ghoulish examples of what we're talking about right now. I swear I thought the computer had to be hanked, and I destroyed it. Autopsy photos is how it's all bloody.
I'm not sure if I've really been able to wrap my mind around it, honestly. I showed, I don't believe you've actually looked at them on your own. I showed Steve one, and it was one of the less graphic ones. And he was like, yeah. So unfortunately, I went there. And I deeply regret it. I knew I would.
I've got to tell you something I learned, when it comes to night terror degree.
She goes by Mel, spoke to the New York Times. This piece was published on Wednesday, January 7th. The headline, her brother murdered 4 students. Now she's ready to talk. Well, I'm so happy that she now feels ready to tell her story. The readout in the online version.
You know what's nuts is that she has no control over how that was presented and anything like that. You have no editing control. And people like this should know that. So to even like go about it this way is just absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. Okay. Sorry, hold on. I want to see.
Says that Mel is going to talk about the Kohberger families, their pain, their confusion. This thing happened the blink of an eye ago. And this piece is such a piece of dirty care. And it looks like my mom was an accessory after the fact, just my opinion. But hey, we just want to re-enter polite society. Please, won't you help us? And the New York Times says, sure, why not?
What? That is our friend, Maureen Callahan, from her podcast, The Nerve. And boy, she hit the nail on the head. Really? Mel is whining to the New York Times, and they're printing their puff piece about her pain and her family's pain. Okay. That's a time to keep your pie hole shut. Right there. I would like your response to Kohberger's family whining about their pain.
Where does Kohberger's family whine about that?
You know, I think it's just odd that they would. That's their first time they've chosen to speak out. You know, apparently they stand behind him, whether they believe the truth or not. But they've never spoken out for his innocence. They've never gone out there and said, you know, my brother's innocent. He didn't do this. He would never do such a thing. But they come out and, you know, say, you know, we're in this terrible situation. Our family is hurting and whatnot. And I don't doubt that their family is having some sort of confusion, pain. I don't. I'm sure that they are.
Even compare. But
it does not compare at all. They could still talk to him. They could write to him. They could go visit him. He's still breathing.
My kids would be, if one of my kids did something like this, they would be did to our family. We would not be supporting them, that we would not be. I tell all my kids, if you do something that atrocious, even like something like that, where you overly go over somebody else as well, you're done. This family, we would never put up with that. And this, we're talking about an individual who's got like $30,000. So you gotta stand up and say the person's wrong, and then remove your support. Otherwise, you're condoning what he did, and you're embracing it, and you're rewarding him for that behavior. And that's why society has people like this, and we will.
I think that when they're saying that they're confused, you guys, is that if he was claiming that he was innocent, right, this whole time for all these years, right, and not only was he claiming that he was innocent, right, but that his lawyers were saying that he's innocent, but he was basically framed. Okay. So it's not like these lawyers can talk to the parents or the sisters. You're not privy to stuff like that. Those lawyers are Bryan's lawyers. They talk to Bryan and Bryan only. If they have conversation with the family, it's going to be very minimal shit. And it's for like logistics. Okay. Because it's called client attorney privilege information. And so I think that they would be confused if all of a sudden this happened like this, you know? So I can just see their confusion with that. But if it's the article that I read, I'm confused. Did the Kohbergers speak out? Because I only have it as the one sister, and whoever put out the fake book, which I made sure I went and got because I knew it was fucking fake, but I made sure I got it and I got a copy of it. Because I want to be putting that's going to be in my documentary, because that's absolutely wild. But if you wanted to ever get somebody to talk, go publish a fake book about them on Amazon. And then it's almost like you got to come out and talk about that. That's not you, you know, like, and I think that it should be outed who the hell did that.
Continue to have people like this, because we haven't just cut the rope and said, you're done, you're dead. Even though you're alive, you're dead to us.
It's hard to put ourselves in their shoes, because a lot of people think they could put themselves in our shoes and speak on behalf of how they would act, or they wouldn't have done what we did, or they would have done this and that and this and that. And until you're in these shoes, it's hard to really say what you're going to do. We think we know what we would do if the tables were reversed.
Well, I think I agree with Christy there. I would have no idea, but you get into that like fear mode when that something happens. Like you're afraid to, oh, I don't want to mess the thing up, so I'm afraid of this, or should I not be saying this, or what should I do? Like that's something that I could foresee how I would feel, is that you're afraid to make a mistake. Well, I don't know. Should I not be saying that? Should I be talking? That's what it is hard about. I can't imagine what any of these parents have been through.
To actually know for sure. That's just our opinion of how we feel as a family.
Hey guys, Gonsalveses,
Yes.
Sitting down, you may need to lay down. Quotes from Melissa Kohberger from the New York Times.
Wait, did
Brace
she
yourself.
cut them off?
I've always been a person who has spoken up for what was right. Okay, just right there. Screeching stop. If I ever had a reason to believe my brother did anything, I would have turned him in. Okay. It's confusing. It's painful. It's like being victimized, but not really being a victim. Okay. You're not a victim. You're not a victim.
That is completely wrong, Nancy, and you fucking know it. They are a victim. She's a victim. The other sister's a victim. The two parents are victims. Okay. Yeah. That's why they're that's just, I cannot believe that she's saying that. That's just, you're totally misguiding and misleading. Okay, yes, of course, like Christy and Steve's pain and what they've been through, but I'm not in the business of saying who's lost more. Well, God, I would hope that anybody and everybody would see that the Gonsalveses have physically lost their kid. They're never going to talk to Kaylee again. It's like, you can't compare. Okay. But if a family's over here saying, we're forever, like, I'm never going to be able to, hang out with my son or have any of the holidays and all that stuff, and he's where he's at, but also like, it's like everybody views me as I raised a monster murderer, blah blah. I mean, that's like nothing you could have done. You didn't do anything, and now you're being labeled like this because of something that you're over here saying, well, fuck, I have no idea what to believe, because why would not only my son be saying that he didn't do it, but these attorneys be saying that, and then all of this stuff starts coming out? I think this is a fair statement to say as far as being confused.
Victim, Melissa Kohberger. The idea is making me so emotional, I can barely speak to you about it. It's human nature to be curious about darker things. That's how we keep ourselves safe. I think we should try to come together for a true crime culture. What? Come together for a true crime culture? Now, wait. We're all so proud of him.
Wait, why didn't you read the rest of it? Yeah, a true crime culture to come together for a true that is way more protective and empathetic to the families of the victims. Why didn't you read the rest of that? She's speaking about the families of the victims. How are you trying to twist this? Like, this is called gaslighting. You're gaslighting here. You're twisting when I read it, that's not how I viewed it. That
together for a true crime culture. Now, wait. We're all so proud of him because he had overcome so much. It was
dude, this is disgusting, Nancy. You're taking, that is not the order of how this book has all went. You're just flopping everything together. We're so proud of him. Yeah, this was back. We were so proud of him that he overcame being a heroin addicted kid. Goes to rehab, then buckles down, gets his degrees, and now he's going to go to WSU to carry on with getting his PhD. I mean, like, that's what that was about. Now we're so proud of him. Like, this is cringe, Nancy.
Part surrounded by vibrant colors that I had drawn for Bryan, even if I could not be there in person. Okay, I stand up for what is right. She actually said that, Christy. She said that.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it very hard to believe that she doesn't know the truth, unless in that situation that they are in, they just have a mental block that will not allow them to accept what he did.
She said in her own words, Bryan, you're out at like 1, 2, and 3 in the morning.
Be careful running.
So if you know your brother's out, he has the same car, you've got a shared family Amazon account, you're seeing he has the weapon. So now he has the weapon, the car, and he's out around that time.
And he lives close.
Yeah, he's less than 10 miles away. Don't tell me you didn't know or you didn't think that he was.
Well, everybody in college, I hate to say this though, but everybody in college is out late at night. Okay. So many people have white or black cars. Sedans. Same thing with SUVs or trucks, like white or black number 1 cars. And later on the college campuses. And who would ever think that you would hear something like that? You're gonna be like, oh my God, that's my brother or my sister that did that. If that's the first thing that comes to mind when you would hear that type of a title of the news, you guys, I hate to break it to you, but you should have been reporting your family member way before the incident then, because you already think that that's what they're capable of. If you could think that when you heard a title like that, that's my sibling could have done that. No. Otherwise, then it's You should have reported your sibling way before then. If you could literally think that.
Is a suspect. Or why didn't you tell him to go
Well,
turn his car?
according to her, the family knew nothing. Listen.
Kohberger's sister Mel saying her family had no idea her brother was a killer and reached out to warn him to be careful after the murders. Finally speaking out, she wants to talk about growing up with the killer.
No one wants
See who talked about growing up with the killer. Like,
to hear about growing up with Bryan Kohberger, but this does.
yeah, actually, everybody did want to hear about this because at the sentencing, the families, especially Xana's family, wanted to talk to him. Hey, if you ever want to talk, and we will be there, call us. That's what Xana's family, her grandma said. Or was that actually, that may have been, was that, it was either Xana's, maybe that was that Maddie's grandma? Anyways, it was, they definitely want to talk. Like, so I just think that that's just completely not true. Because you want to know how the hell, why'd you pick this house? Why'd you go there? Like, what's going on? Bill Thompson didn't give them any of those answers. And then Bill Thompson's like, we're not going to ask him anything because he's just going to lie about it. And it's like, dude, if he was to ever try to like appeal this, even though people think that he can't, by getting in him saying stuff that's only going to, why do you think they went when Christopher Watts said that he did everything right? Why did they send those FBI agents into Wisconsin to go visit him? Why do you think they did that? Yeah, that's right.
It's not bode well for her mental health care career if she lived with a psycho killer her whole life and didn't notice anything was wrong. Okay, joining me right now, Dr. Bethany Marshall. She's a renowned psychologist out of the LA jurisdiction, author of Deal Breakers. You can see her on Peacock, and you can find her at drbethanymarshall.com. Dr. Bethany Marshall, I ask that you tread very lightly while the Gonsalves family is with us. But what is with this person? It's my understanding, and you investigative reporters, Susan and Dave, jump in if I'm wrong, but she has a career in mental health care, and she lived with a psycho killer her whole life and didn't notice a thing? That does not bode well.
No, there's so many reports about Bryan Kohberger that exposed the fact that he stalked, that the staff at the university had meetings about him. There were complaints about him. I'm sure he exhibited that same behavior at home. There's a term, the mask of sanity, when it comes to psychopaths, meaning that they wear the mask of sanity. They pretend that they are more sane than they really are. But Bryan,
This is, I mean, let's just kind of laugh for a minute about this. If you guys would have gotten a selfie like this sent to you, come on. Like if you were 28, is that how old he was? 27, 28? Come on. I'd have been like, what the fuck?
Kohberger did not pretend he was sane. It was apparent to everybody around him. Why not Mel? And the thing about Melissa, in order to be a therapist, you have to have profound empathy for others. In her interview, she expresses no empathy for the families of the victims.
What? I'm what?
Well, even giving the interview about her pain and her family's
I thought that she gave a lot. I thought that that's what it mostly was about.
pain. Okay, one thing before the Gonsalves leave us tonight, I want to speak to them about what this woman just said, Kohberger's sister. The family had no idea. But let me lay something out for you, and then I will explore it more in depth with the rest of our panel. The phone records tell a very different story, Mr. and Mrs. Gonsalves, and I'm sure you already know this. But for those that don't, for the phone records, the murders of 4 beautiful students, including Keely Gonsalves, occurred between 4:05 and 4:20 a.m. Kohberger turns his phone off between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m.
What's up?
Oh, I'm about to lose my mind on Nancy. I'm just sitting here watching this like, shut up, Nancy.
What's up? I mean, how loud can one get, man?
It's just, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, Lana, for real. It's like, it's tough when it doesn't come off as if she's even really defending the victims. It's like she's protecting her brand because she's up on this pedestal of like, I don't want to be the mainstream person that gets caught saying, hey, you know, a sister who knows her brother probably better than everybody that's, you know, making these reports had no idea about it to the point where she's telling him to stay safe. No, nobody wants to call that out. So
yeah, or just like, how about all the people that worked with him that after this happened, none of them called the tip line?
It's just ridiculous. I was listening to this morning in Russia.
I didn't even know that. Oh, so this, did it just drop a little bit ago?
I think it came out on the 23rd or the 24th, but I listened to it this morning.
Oh, I just saw it for the first time. Like it said 3 hours ago, this drop. Maybe she put it out there on a different thing and then it was just on her YouTube or something.
Yeah, maybe.
What is she about to say?
He turns the phone back on his way from the crime scene back to his apartment in Pullman, 4:45 to 5 a.m. He immediately starts calling his mother around 6 a.m. Now he's just turned his phone back on, starts calling his mother over and over and over and over obsessively. She doesn't pick up.
Calling over and over, 6:13, 6:14. So mother, father, then called mother, lasted 36 minutes. So it's 6:17. Okay.
Do you know what comes to my head, Lana? Who was actually inside of the house and called their parents as well? Nobody wants to talk about that part. And it's not even necessarily just that. It's rather just the comparison of like, I just saw a comment fly by that said, what is this all for? They're really doing the most. They think they're doing the most, but they're really doing the least when it comes to talking about all this.
Well, also people have to remember, like on the East Coast, it's 9:13 in the morning. It's 9:14. It's 9. You know, it's not 6 a.m. So like when he's calling at 6:13 a.m. where he's located in Pennsylvania, the same time zone that I'm on, that would have been 9:13 a.m. So just saying, like it's not like he's calling his parents and but I don't know, like, does he normally call his parents like, you know, at that time? And then what did he talk to them about, you know? And I don't know, like it would depend on what the phone looks like, you know what I mean? Your patterns. So if he's normally doing that, you know, because then you can say if he's normally doing that, then no, it does not look weird. I think what's probably the most strange with it for me is that he said he goes for those drives or whatever, and that he wasn't tired. Did he say he was just up still, you know, like that he didn't go to sleep? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you guys, what is he taking that he would not be asleep? I mean, what time did he wake up on the 12th? Because then if you think about it, he would have been up all day on the 12th, right? And then when you go to bed, oh wait, no, you didn't go to bed going into the 13th, right? And then he's just out at, you know, what is it? At Costco and shit like that. After we see this crime scene, when Scott Roeder, when I was talking to him the first time, he said, you know, you need to look at these people's hands. 100 stab, you know, you're going to have bruises all over your hands.
Bruising is a great call out. It really is, because think about the impact that
Maybe
the K-bar has, that whatever, like where the blade attaches, it sticks out. And just in general, the impact that I'm sure it would take.
He was saying that like everybody's hands should have been examined, because, you know, when Scott even was saying this, we didn't even know that it was going to be upwards of like 100, you know. And now when you look at the crime scene, it's just like, this was, I mean, this is, So his hands were, I don't know, like there's just, for somebody just to be out and about and he didn't go to sleep then, it's like, what are you taking that you're able to just not be asleep? Like,
Right.
regardless of murder or not, you know what I'm saying? Like,
That's a good point.
like
Wasn't
how
he on?
did he sleep during the day? Like, you know, you get into weird funks in college. Like if you've been to college, you know, so I would just say that looking at his phone, like, is there a period of time where like for 5 hours, like did he like slept? You know, when you go, if someone takes a nap and they fall asleep at like 5 p.m. and then you wake up at like 10 or 11. But in this case, we know that he went to Walmart I think he was in that checking out at like 10:30 at Walmart. Right. And I'm just like, who the fuck goes to Walmart? All right, I got all this food. Okay, I'm gonna drive back home, unload my car, and I'm like, okay, let's just go kill some people. You know, that's just.
I agree.
That's some fucked up shit, man.
Can I ask you this too? There's a couple things. So it's most likely probably not heroin that's keeping him awake, right? I saw somebody say that. And then secondly, I saw another comment fly by, which is a great point. It's like, who's to say that he necessarily had to be on anything? I'm sure there are people that just, they don't sleep well or whatever, right? So
1,000%.
That's a good point.
You know, totally. I just think that it would come down to looking at your, and I think that they were going to try to get this in if they could, but pattern of behavior. And if they were going to try to use the cell phone to show like the patterns of with your phone, you guys know how like you get these updates with your phone. It tells you how long you were on your phone, as far as like screen time, and then your sleep. Do you guys do that with yours?
Yep.
And I always pay attention to what my average daily use for my screen is. And I'm like, some days I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, me too, dude. You get a warning. You get a warning, then, like you need to move.
Yeah. And I'm like, yes. But it's just like, today you use 9 hours and 14 minutes. But I was like, I use my phone for work. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing my research on it. I'm like, everything. Like I get my emails, but I just laugh when I'm like, see guys, look at me. I'm putting in my 8 hours.
That's a good point.
So I just was like, holy shit. Then you look at the time when you're sleeping, and because I'll go down rabbit holes right before I go to bed. And then I'm like, holy shit, it's almost 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I gotta get up at 7. So
yeah.
I don't know.
What can I ask you quick? Just to,
oh yeah. Ask away, whatever, buddy.
So I listened to this, but obviously I just gotten done doing my live. So real quick, was there anything this far into the interview that has really stuck out? Because I think in general, this interview seems like they're certainly doing, again, they're doing their best to stay to a very strict narrative. I mean, I was backstage and I just heard before Nancy brought that guest on, she said, keep in mind that, the G family's here, so tread lightly, right? Like, what does that mean?
Oh, that's what was it lie? I didn't even, when she had that woman on?
Yeah, she said it right before
I thought that was like a pre-record. I didn't even realize that.
It's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
and
I think this WSU lawsuit, people aren't giving it enough street cred right now. And I'm telling you, this lawsuit's going to be really, really interesting. I think that WSU hit a lot of shit. I think that this lawsuit is going to lead to a lot of things, is what I think. You got to be careful what you when you're going to go do something, the fallout, like there's a lot of things that can come from it, Tell me, you're suing WSU. I would totally be deposing Bryan Kohberger if I was them. That's my chance to talk to him, to ask him any questions I want, and he cannot plead the fifth. There's nothing no judge is going to allow him to plead the fifth. There's not an interest there for him. Unless he was to, the only way that he would get out of that is if he filed a fucking appeal. Otherwise, he's being deposed. I'm telling you.
Okay.
And if the families don't do it, I'm over here scratching my head to say, why aren't you taking this opportunity? You get to be in the same, if you are suing somebody, and you are having a deposition, you get to be in that room with them if you want. And so here you go, have at it, and you get to be in a room with Kohberger, all those parents, and ask away.
Okay, you just brought up something about how Kohberger, if he gets out of that by appealing, it certainly seems like that would follow the pattern of we're looking at this case and what most people would expect to happen. It's like, wait, what? That just happened, right? Like I would say Bryan Kohberger taking the plea deal kind of out of nowhere and not talking. And then this WSU lawsuit, there's rumors, then it happens. Could you imagine if now, before or almost to prevent, maybe WSU, do they have some sort of leverage by saying, do we really want to do this? I mean, would they have an interest in almost not convincing Bryan to appeal by any means, but they would have a vested interest in, at least financially, if he did, right? Or am I missing something?
Yeah, they have a huge financial interest in that. But you know what else they would have a huge financial interest in is, a defense to a lawsuit is just like if you were to be sued for defamation, like the truth, right, is not defamatory. That's the truth. It's the truth, and it's not defamation. So, I said this in a couple of the lives when I was breaking down the lawsuit. I said, when does WSU start maybe possibly considering the fact that if Bryan Kohberger did not do this, then they are not liable.
Right.
So it's like, when would you ever try to go to bat the opposite way, which would be that because I personally believe that if Bryan Kohberger was deposed, I could totally see him saying, I took the plea deal because I was sparing my life. That's what I think his ass would say. I think that he would say that I took the plea deal so I could spare myself my life.
I have a quick question to you, because I know you do have a good intuition kind of about what maybe the most outspoken family, I think we would all agree, being the G family, would say in this interview. I know you're not all the way through it, but they talk about how this is the first time that their family speaks out. Is, they don't really address Bryan doing this. And then Steve goes on to say, like, if you did anything like this, you'd be dead to our family, et cetera, et cetera. I'd be so curious to see if Bryan did actually talk and say what you just said. I took this plea deal because I'm innocent. I did it to save my life. Or I would just be curious. And even if it's a hypothetical situation and he never said that, like, what do you think? How do you think they would respond?
How do I think they would respond?
Right, because they've always said
because remember, you're allowed to kind of. I think that once he would say that, I think that then you would have a potential interest back for your lawyer then that you're sitting there with, because if Bryan Kohberger was to get deposed, he is allowed to have a lawyer there. Okay.
Yep.
And I would think that anybody that would be in their right mind as an attorney, as soon as he was to say something like that, you would have to say, okay, now we are invoking the fifth because of those reasons right there, that if he's saying now that he took the plea deal because he really didn't do it right. Okay, well then what if the families are going to say, okay, well then you would want to start asking questions about, okay, so you didn't do it. Then why was your phone off? You would try to just go at how did the sheath have your DNA on it? But think about this. All he's going to say is, I don't know. I don't think that is my DNA, or I don't know. I don't know. I was hoping that these experts would be able to tell us. Think about that. I don't know.
True.
To ask the question then is, why did you have my phone off? I don't think I shut my phone off, but I know that I lose service all the time around there. I'm just saying that it would be very, very interesting to me if you depose Bryan Kohberger, right? But what if you don't depose him in the lawsuit? Okay. And then the question would be like, well, why didn't you depose Bryan Kohberger? This is a guy that could actually seal the deal for you to win your lawsuit. If Bryan Kohberger is like, yeah, because he's supposedly stalking these women, right? Leaving class, he got 10 tickets, right? Would you want to find out if, like, I'd want to know how he paid the tickets. Did you go to the, when I was at UC, when we get tickets, you could actually go and pay them in person. And so did he ever go down there and pay his tickets in person? Because he's a talker. Did he ever chum it up with somebody there at the ticket office, right? One of those secretaries or whatever.
Yeah.
But like,
He did
it's
it
like
at the health center. They wrote an article about it.
You know, it's like, how did nobody turn, you know, hey, I keep giving this car a ticket that is a white Honda Elantra that you guys are looking for.
There's probably some dude that works for their parking department that's like, I knew exactly what Honda Elantra this was immediately by how many tickets I put on that windshield. Like, you bring up a very good point though, just in general. Yeah. Did he go pay in person? How did he pay it? Right.
I have no idea what this means. Lana, I gave you everything with proof of the killers. I have it to you because I believed that you would look into it, but you haven't. Don't just say that. Say who you think the killers are, and I'll highlight that. Who do you think the killers are? What do you mean look into it? I'm destroying through the discovery. That's what I'm doing. I'm peeling it back like an onion that's never, I mean, that's where the truth is in the discovery. You can find the stuff in the discovery. I'm telling you, every case that I've ever helped on, what's not there and what should be there. Because when somebody avoids to go into a certain area, oh, hey, don't ask any more questions, or okay, that's enough. We're going to not have a follow-up with that person. What are you doing? Why would you never follow up with that person? You have like so many unanswered questions, you know? That tells you a lot though. Like you need to, but I don't know what this person's writing about, asking like, I told you who, go to the police. Go to the police and tell them. I don't know what that person's talking about. I sent you everything. Write down the person's name. Everything that you're saying, Bertie, though, this lawsuit is WSU is fucked. I think WSU is absolutely fucked. You want to know why? Because of what these employees that are like running this division of the criminology program, because of what they said in their interviews to the police.
Right.
So here, those were going to be used to lock up Kohberger, right? But now here, they're going to be used because the police wanted you to say all that shit. But now here, they're going to be used to sue the living fuck out of your school.
I mean, that is a good point, because
that's exactly how it's going to happen. These people are going to but they're going to lose their jobs over it too. It's insane how it's going to happen here.
It is insane. And I don't think that what you just said is that far of a stretch if you were to play out the hypothetical events of an internal meeting that we can almost guarantee any university in the world would have if they have somebody who gets arrested for this crime and it's getting this much media attention, right? I mean, at what point do they really lean into what they're being told or what they hear on the media? Are they privy to behind the scenes information if even the families aren't to some of it, right? As we've been told. So I do wonder if, to your point, did they just go with the flow and now it's going to kind of spin the block out of it? They're going to get got on it, really.
And I think these people are going to lose their jobs. I think that because it's like they didn't do their job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then what they're claiming though is you guys had so many issues with the police and that they're running hog wild over there. Okay. They're doing whatever they want. And then we can't focus on other things that we need to focus on because we're dealing with all of this shit with the WSU police crap that's going on. But how about that being written up in news articles? And all it takes is somebody that would have been thinking about doing this hey, let me go over there and let me do it there. They got so many issues, or the cops get away with whatever. They all protect themselves, whatever. And that's actually why Bryan Kohberger went to WSU. I mean, you could spin this so many ways. But at the end of the day, all of those people that were interviewed and the things that they said to law enforcement literally wrote these families. I mean, in my opinion, this is a $25 million per family, easy. Boom. That's $100 million. And why I say that's easy is because Brian Drake, without a trial, this is an unsolved murder case in Idaho. Brian Drake's life, the Moore's $15 million. $15 million for a case that a man has, hey, I didn't do it. You guys got me to false confess, right? But then that got thrown out. Then you never rearrested me. Then there's still, it's an open it's an unsolved murder, but yet you had some civil trial. And at the 18th, 19th, 21st hour, boom. Okay, we're just going to default judge. Why? Well, because we're basically being threatened that if we fight this, then when we come to Idaho, we're going to arrest Dan Moore for murder, or don't go about this. At the end of the day, $15 million for the Brian Drake case. Okay.
Wow.
Well, what do you think for students that if the University WSU brought in somebody, like they said, from the East Coast here, brought him in, everything Bryan Kohberger signed his life away with his privacy rights. I mean, I could not believe the stuff that they're having these kids sign over there. You could go into those dorms whenever you want, those housings. You can go do this. You're supposed to be monitored. You can monitor everybody's use with the Wi-Fi. Okay. When I found out that the police never served a search warrant on WSU's Wi-Fi in that housing with the steptoe, and it was called like a RestNet, whatever, I was like, holy shit. They never did. Like, we've never saw any of Bryan Kohberger's search anything with the internet. They fucking buried it. They never went and got it on purpose because that's how they were already thinking to protect WSU back then. This is absolutely crazy. Crazy. This lawsuit, I'm telling you, is I hope it goes all the way. I hope it goes all the way because we should actually see what type of I can't believe that they had this type of power over people over there because of the way that they're signing away their lives with their privacy. They have none. So, and you're supposed to be doing this stuff to keep the kids safe. And here you're hiring somebody they're supposed to be, and then you have all these complaints and you don't even sit down with the guy and you don't handle anything how you're supposed to, which actually leads to triggering people when you don't handle it right. And if they are meeting the 5 biggest red flags that your WAV 21 is supposed to catch, I'm like, holy shit. They have a case. They have a very strong case, I think.
And it's interesting. Who out of all of this, when I say benefits, right? I don't want people to think as simply when I'm asking you this question of just it's a money grab, right? Like, let's think a little bit deeper than that. Who does benefit from this lawsuit the most? Is it investigators from all the documents that you've gone into, we've gone into, people have gone into? It's like you poke holes in a lot of them. Is it the audio, video, whatever it is that's a little bit hard to make sense of? Is it Ann Taylor's strategy? Is it all to put the blame on WSU away from all these parties? Or like, what really is the motivation behind this?
I think it's going to be a domino effect. I think the families want to hold everybody accountable. They were lied to. And now I think they finally realize that for all these families to come together and say, okay, yep, we're going to go and do this lawsuit when none of these families have ever been on the same page. Right. So I think the final straw, right, that is, hey, we were all lied to. Like, they're telling you guys, like the Chapins and Madison Mogen's family, hey, take this plea deal. You don't have to go through a trial. None of this stuff is going to come out. Okay, it's going to stay sealed. And then they're telling the Gonsalves family, listen, everything that you want to know, we're going to get it to you, like that, like the plea deal is the best thing and blah, blah, blah. And then, so when you're separating and dividing all these families, hey, everybody was just killed in their sleep. You're telling everybody that their kid, they didn't suffer and all this wild ass lies, right? Boom. the truth starts coming out and all this shit. And it's like, wait, we had no idea that your daughter was punched in the face and stabbed repeatedly over 25 times. And then for a total of 50. We had no idea that Dana 50. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't what we were told. This isn't what we were told. And had we known this, there's no way that now we understand why you feel the way that you did. We're over here thinking that you're crazy this whole time because we're being told that you guys are just being, ridiculous. And we talk to them all the time and we have our communication and they just, it's sick. It's sick. It's so gross.
You said something that made something kind of click in my head that I've wondered about. Hence why I asked you the question of like, who do you think benefits the most? You responded by saying it's a domino effect. And I do wonder what this all proves is that what WSU handed over to the cops about Bryan Kohberger is actually a completely and totally different narrative than what was told to the public, the families and the media about this guy. Like, could you ever see it being some sort of backdoor loop into like, not a crazy backdoor loop, giant plot twist, but the domino effect of, well, now ideally, if this goes all the way, we would see what did WSU hand off to the police. I'd be curious to see what did they hand off to the police versus what was reported to the police. Very similar to the, Dylan says she sees Kaylee run upstairs and then run downstairs saying someone's in the house, but it ended up they were all in their bed originally and asleep. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think that anybody that will look at that scene now, I think that people thought that a cop did this. Somebody did this that knows what they're doing unless, right? I mean, think about it. They didn't leave any trails anywhere, right? This is somebody that knew what they were doing and they're over here trying. Well, hello, all of those WSU guys just basically resigned and before that got fired and somebody blew the whistle on that about what big pervs they were over there and doing all their crazy shit. Well, right after that happens, this happens on Idaho's campus. Get the sunshine and the highlights off of our campus. Something has to happen over there at Idaho to get all of this stuff off of us over here at WSU. And that's where I think that people should start looking at. It's like who blew the whistle on everything that happened at WSU. It was definitely law enforcement in some capacity. And it's usually when you start doing these task force that you start seeing things and realizing things, and you start talking amongst other people and stuff gets out. But that house to anybody that would go into that scene would be asking themselves, okay, who did this? And is this person law enforcement? Because they knew what they were doing, right? That's what they're trying to say. Bryan Kohberger, he was a criminology student. He knew what he was doing. And so I think they thought at first that this could have been a cop or multiple cops, but they're never going to come out and say that. Now they're never going to say that, but that's what I fucking think that they thought.
Well, see, now you got the wheels turning and I don't want to sidetrack too much, but we do know that WSU regularly worked with Pullman PD on body cam studies. They still have it on their website and all their newsletters back like till 2013 or something. There's hundreds of newsletters. So to your point of like, people are going to think it's a cop, where my head just went is like, well, if it was a cop, what better person to maybe inject into this than a criminology student that checks every box of a loner, incel, scapegoat. I know that's my wheels are turning. I'm just saying in general, right? I mean, if people think it was a cop, well, who would have access to? I don't know. Just kind of one of those things.
When Blaker's not writing his reports on time, when nobody in Pullman has a report, but yet whenever you're brought in from different agencies, like you still have to like document your shit. No one from Pullman wrote up a report except for Chris Engel. Nobody from WSU wrote up a report. Okay. They had 120 different people on this case. That means you're physically doing something. How do you think that you're not going to write a fucking report? How is there no reports from Pullman? How is there no reports from WSU? except like I said, for one person, and that's Chris Engel, who wrote his report after the plea deal already happened and sentence. It was in August. He wrote his report. I mean, for stuff that he did in 2022, he wrote a report August, I can't remember, 25th, 2025. Unfucking believable. And it was like Blaker and Barrett, they hid the fact that they were ever even working with Pullman. They're not writing in reports. They're trying to round up dates and say from, November 17th, 18th to like December, whatever. And they just put those dates like that. And I was just, working with them on the car stuff. Fuck out of here. That's horse shit. That's not how you write a report.
And I do wonder if maybe there was some information. If WSU, to your point about maybe they didn't report it, yada, 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 all these complaints that are referenced in the filing. I mean, what if internally Kohberger was marked as this person of interest? That in itself could be a big deal, right? Like if there is a record that Bryan Kohberger is a person of interest that was displaying, all these odd behaviors, and it wasn't just one-off complaints by students, but they actually had seen enough of these complaints and took it a step further internally. And could that be something they're trying to get exposed?
I think that if let me put you this way, WSU would have every reason to not report Bryan Kohberger and put him into the tip line. Okay. Because they would rather have this be, fuck, no way. It can come back on us. And then he was a grad, going to be a PhD and all this stuff. And then they look and they say, we have all of these reports that from him, but they need to bury that. So that's what I think. This is what I think is I think that the families are going to expose this. I've always said that they hid behind IGG. I didn't like it. Bryan Kohberger's name came out. Okay. But I don't believe it came out and they could never say how it came out because I said it would take down something. It would take down something that's way bigger that they had. And I was like, this is what it is. And it could never be a WSU PhD student like this. They would rather have it be an unsolved case. Okay. And Moscow Police Department, in my opinion, were going to help WSU keep that secret. Okay. Until the FBI got involved and then the FBI was doing things that was violating people's rights. They then, got to it this whatever way. But I think that WSU or Idaho is going to cover for WSU and WSU covers for Idaho. That's what they do. But the feds, when they came in, I personally think that the feds were doing stuff, obviously illegal as fuck to find out the name and do everything with what they're claiming. But I think that WSU and Idaho would have a very, very strong interest in never having that come out that it would be Bryan Kohberger because he was from WSU and he was a grad student or a PhD student. And never. That would be horrible, right? Yeah. Especially when they see that we had all this stuff and we didn't do anything. Like that's why Gary Jenkins, I think, is an absolute piece of shit liar. He just completely lies.
Well, and Jenkins, right? He was Pullman chief prior.
Yeah.
Called Chief Fry. Chief Fry references this on the drive home where he was speeding, breaking all the laws. As he said, I was driving super fast and Jenkins called me and asked, do I need help yet? And Fry said, no, I think I got it right now. So they clearly have a relationship.
Well, how about if any one of those girls at any point in time had sex with any one of those cops that got fired for their fucking perverted ass shit ways, okay, or knew something that happened or whatever. I mean, I don't know, but all I can say is that when you want to talk about why that house, you really have to peel back the onion, and that would require people that are supposed to be investigating doing their jobs. But if they didn't go out and do the interviews that they were supposed to do, then you're not going to get those answers. But
I mean, let's say that to that point, if any one of the victims had a relationship with a police officer, and let's say that the Bryan Kohberger trial went the distance the whole way, and let's say he was guilty of sin, unanimous, no reasonable doubt, dude's in prison for life sentences. Could you imagine still how big of a story it would be if one of the investigating police officers was involved with a victim, even in what would have been a case that went through the trial? It would still be a huge deal. And then to your point, if you stack it on this, I mean, that's a nuke. That's
also, it seems to me that Bryan Kohberger would be totally somebody that would weasel his way in, right? To be hey, I used to be addicted to heroin type of thing. Like, let me help you guys out. I'll be CI. I'll do some controlled buys for you. And things of that nature. And it's like, another thing that you don't want to get out there, like a guy that we brought in, because I kept trying to think to myself, why aren't they disciplining this guy? If all these reports truly do exist, which I do believe they exist, prior to the murders, why are you feeling like if we were to, I don't know, kick him out of the program or do things by the book that we're supposed to do, that we're going to catch a lawsuit? Why would they ever think, why would WSU people that were running that department think that they would ever catch a lawsuit from Bryan Kohberger? That doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And I cannot wait for Melanie to have to answer that shit. I think that bitch should not have a fucking job. I hope that she's putting in her papers, because I'm sorry, but I couldn't possibly imagine as a coach if people came to me and complained about the same person and gave me all, and I just didn't fucking do anything. Like, why? Oh, I think that they might try to get me fired because of something so like, oh, because I was being discriminatory towards them or something like that, or that's how they would try to swing it. No, I have all the proof in the backing and these 13 reports. It doesn't make sense. And these people need to answer to that. Like, fuck this.
Sydney 95 Reynolds in your chat brought up a good point. The only thing maybe could be a wrongful termination, and given Kohberger maybe saying, I should have been in this program prior. Like, we know wrongful termination lawsuits are that's obviously minuscule compared to.
What do you mean wrong? But there's not going to be a wrongful termination if you are documenting things and you actually go about it and follow your protocols. I want to know why they weren't following protocols. And what this lawsuit is claiming is that they couldn't follow the protocols because they were handling all this other shit on the campus because of all their cop bullshit. So they were so impacted by what was going on. And if you go and look at the articles, dude, WSU was getting hammered at that point in time. May to literally November, October, like they were getting their asses handed to them about what was going on in that campus. Bad.
Yeah. And I think too, though, right, in general, people can argue, well, I didn't do that, whatever was reported or documented. Again, it's on a very simple level, not given all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't understand the nature of the media surrounding the WSU lawsuit and how people aren't asking the questions that you are. Right? Like, I would say, like, right now, people are just running with very surface level. WSU had all of this. They should have known. They should have stopped it. And then before the lawsuit was filed, it was, right, Bryan Kohberger is so guilty. He did all this. And it just seems like each time there's a million questions that you can ask that eventually end up poking holes in.
Yeah, that's the whole problem, is that if they investigated and they didn't, that's the problem though, is that you guys, they didn't even investigate it. They didn't even look into anything. But more importantly, they didn't even handle it the right way. They were never supposed to do what they were doing, and saying how they gave them, like, whatever happened on November 8th was totally opposite of the protocols. And that is what they are saying, the families are saying, was Bryan Kohberger's trigger. And if you go and you look at that, that's a very compelling argument based on, like, wow, you guys did this wrong. And if you would have done it by how you're supposed to do, whatever you did on November 8th was not supposed to be handled that way. And then literally he goes and commits. And I think that the only thing that's going to be hard to sell here is that Bryan Kohberger bought this knife in March. Okay. In March. So if he bought this in March and he drove from Pennsylvania with this, that means he was coming here with the intent to kill with that knife. But then there's other things that like you had the opportunity to go into his apartment and you would have been able to find that knife, and then boom, that's a violation. They're basically saying that he would have kept on racking up these violations of, when I say violations, like he's violating the policies. You're an employee. He's an employee of WSU. And so it's not just like a student. If he would have been a student, this lawsuit has no legs if he was a student. But he's not a student. And I think it's going to come more that there's a possibility that he had some type of relationship with the Pullman Police Department, that he was helping them, like how Molly is helping them. Can't you guys see that Kohberger would be like doing something like that? He'd want to engage in that. He wants to be a cop so bad, and he likes to chum it up and talk with people. That you're going to sit here and tell me that he couldn't chum it up and, hey, if you ever need anybody to do like some controlled buys or make some fake ass fucking Facebook account, I can get into some groups and tell people that I have, I know the lingo and I used to do it. And I can see that.
You're right.
That's totally what he would do.
Yeah. Jenkins also had said like he had a conversation with Bryan, and the feedback was not necessarily right. The criminology skill, I believe he referenced like socially, you wouldn't be able to do it. But you just said, do we really think he wouldn't be able to, chum it up with people? There is also an article about the people at the health center where they were like, he's the nicest guy in the world. He was very nice.
Well,
dude.
yeah, but that's all. But that's all the complaints are saying, that all he wanted to do was chum it up, and he'd corner you in a room and want to talk to you forever. Like Ben Gay, I call him Ben Gay. He's over here saying Bryan Kohberger wanted to take a shit in his bathroom. And I'm like, he said he spends 2 hours in his apartment just standing in like this 2x2 area. And I'm like, dude, so Bryan Kohberger just wants to talk about stuff. So you don't think that he would talk his way into being like, hey, if you ever need a, I'll do some control buys. I'm part of the criminology program. I'm doing this, this, and this. That would like, oh yeah. So then think about this, that when Melanie, who's running the department, gets these complaints, she calls up Pullman. She calls up WSU police, right? Hey, have you got any complaints about this student? Because they have a good working relationship. That's what you're supposed to have. So they would have been able to make some phone calls to see if Bryan Kohberger has anybody been complaining about him. And then if they told her, hey, put the FOIAs in and we'll send you all the reports. Okay, right? That's all you would have to do. And I think that they would have done that. But here, how I think that it probably would have went down is something more along the lines of oh, yeah, no, he's fucking harmless, dude. He does controlled buys for us on the weekends. Oh, okay. So are you going to come out and tell the world that when you're being interviewed after when the murders happened? No. You're going to be like, oh my God, we have a huge fucking problem on our hands if this ever gets out who the killer is.
Which, again, it could go back to why Jenkins called Fry right away, right?
They're all lying, yes.
That's why Jenkins maybe called Fry. Like, hey, do you need any help with this? Maybe Jenkins like, this dude's doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, and then they're lying about the fact that when Jenkins is over here saying, I didn't hire Bryan for the intern position because he wasn't trustworthy. It's like, no, Jenkins, you only hired chicks, and then guess what? Your cops are trying to fuck them, okay? And that's coming out in these reports that you guys are like sexually harassing the interns. That's what one of the guys got fired for. So you're not hiring people that are boys. That's what's really happening. And I don't know, maybe Bryan Kohberger found out about that and was pissed. That, oh, I see. You guys didn't hire me because you want to fuck the interns. And he's maybe, I don't know, keep digging. Maybe Bryan Kohberger put in a complaint. I have no idea. But there was a reason that WSU did not want to fire this man. And when I say fire him, they didn't even want to deal with him. It was like, and they need to answer that. The truth should come out, because maybe all these people that were filling out the reports, they bolstered their reports, or they're just, maybe they're going to read the people that supposedly made these reports or talk to the cops. Maybe they're going to be like, dude, I didn't say that. That's not how that came out. We have to actually hear these interviews to then really know when they were interviewed after the fact. But I think all of them should quit their day job or going to get this degree, because they never once called in a tip here's a dude that you all think is crazy. He could be a serial killer. He's going to sexually assault women. You just had a quadruple homicide, and he drives a white Elantra, and none of you criminology, none of the professors, nobody was like, oh my God, Bryan Kohberger could be the guy. Let's call on the tip because this is crazy. None of them.
This would take a long time to do. One of the things that I've always wondered is I would be curious in an average semester or an average school year, how many complaints does, the normal professor get?
Hold on one second. Kaylee, you don't know this if you don't talk to him. You can't say there was literally nothing to fire him over. That's not the argument. The argument is you didn't meet with him to know if anything was happening or not. You didn't investigate the situation. But more importantly, you didn't follow protocols with when stuff like this happens. And that's where they're going to be fucked. And they should be fucked. They did the wrong thing. And they're saying that it triggered him.
Yeah, I mean,
they tried to embarrass him in that meeting that happened on November 8th with the sexual harassment. When all these people are in interviews saying, well, we all know that we had that meeting because of Bryan. Every single person's writing that and these are telling that to the cops when they're being interviewed. And they think that, it's really helping us to be able to get him for these murder charges. Not realizing that, do you know how bad this looks for when you guys are about to get sued? You guys are going to lose your asses. Okay? You guys are going to lose your asses.
Well, and what about, and this is in, one of the documents, one of the reports, that the professor was kind of annoyed that Bryan always wanted to stay exactly right up to the end of office hours. Like, there is things that they're just not necessarily helping Bryan in the minds of people writing these reports to kind of what you just said. You have to go and be able to have, to discern what is a threat report and what is just somebody just being like, this guy's kind of a douche. He's kind of a dick. Like, I don't like him. And I complained to my professor about it. And then this occurred. My professor's trying to think through anything and everyone that's ever said something about it. And it kind of just starts to pile on.
Yeah. I can't believe that none of these professors or anybody told these people, well, if you are in fear, why aren't you going to the police and making a police report? These, again, are people in the criminal justice program. They know how it works. Why aren't you documenting it with the police? Especially when you're talking about somebody stalking you, especially when you're talking about in fear. If you need to be walked out to your car and you aren't going to make a police report, are you kidding me? Like, come on, parents. We need to teach our kids a little better here. Why wouldn't you be going to the police? Why aren't the people that you're going to telling you to go to the police? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The other, excuse me, the other thing that I was just going to say too is why do you think that a lot of these professors haven't come forward and necessarily talked about these incidents? Like, I've always wondered, why is nobody
retaliation? So what I think is going to come out is some of these girls are going to say how they went to report stuff in the past, but because of what they reported and how they did it, they were retaliated against. And the only thing that makes sense with me with that is now we're going to be talking about that. Did you guys go to WS police in the past before? And it wasn't handled the way that it should have been. And instead, it was reversed and like you guys weren't treated like, alleged victims. And instead, you guys didn't, do anything but this whole retaliation. There's something there with the university that it's like, I think they're trying to tell you not to go file police reports. Okay. And if this comes out, which I think it's going to, if this comes out, it's going to fucking blow everything out of the water.
Yeah.
Because that's unbelievable. And that's what was happening there. That was the culture. This culture on WSU's campus, it's been like this for a long time. And how do you think Dawn Daniels got to where she got to? Dawn Daniels kept her mouth fucking shut.
That's it's always strategic to do that when it comes to things like this. Just don't say anything, or you nod your head and you go along with it. Real quick, I saw somebody had asked, like, what does it matter about other professors getting complaints right before you'd put that comment up? I was kind of saying that. My point was just as far as relevance to, okay, you got a TA that he got 10 complaints or 13 complaints, right? What they said. Are there professors that get more than that in a semester by normal students? Now, whether they're stalking or predatory, I think that's where we have to, again, as I said earlier, you got to use that discernment of like, what's some student just pissed off about a bad grade, or what is actually this predatory behavior by
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why these reports are going to matter. And then honestly, guys, to me, it doesn't matter. Like it's like anything when someone calls CPS on you, guess what? It's not like, I mean, CPS is coming out to your fucking house. Okay. And then they're going to do their due diligence. And then they're going to show that this case number was unfounded. Okay. That's how it goes. It's not, they don't get to read these calls in and they get to say, this looks like a fluff to me. No, that's not how it works. And it's just like, that's just not how it works, guys.
Dude, do you think that, not that this again is necessarily relevant to the lawsuit, but if WSU is going to have to talk about all this other stuff, I would just be so curious too. Does anybody mention the fact that Bryan Kohberger is writing about wrongful convictions because of plea deals? Like, at what point does that maybe, like, isn't that weird to you?
Well, that was everybody that had that's what they were taking their classes on. So you notice how all of them have the same books?
I know they have the same books, but I've always, that's like just the wildest coincidence.
I think that his whole little, the thing online, what did he post to Reddit or whatever, doing that survey and, with tell me about this is what you did. I was expecting to see a ton in the filing about him meeting with these people and him having all these ways that people got away with their crimes or didn't, and how they would have done something different, or this is how they got caught, and if they would have done this and they wouldn't have, type of thing. You guys, that is not what came back in his stupid little fucking questionnaire. He was getting reported on left and right by his questionnaire. That's crazy to me, because it's like, how are you going to try to use that when there's no substance there?
Right.
Like there's no substance there. I cannot believe that they were going to even remotely bring that up, because I think it was going to be like a crush. Because here it is Bryan just keeps talking about like, somebody's clearly reporting me. Somebody's reporting.
Yeah,
I'm not even getting any answers. No one's answering to this. So where was the maybe the FBI has it and we haven't seen it all, but where was anybody answering all of these questionnaires and just telling him how to get away with crimes?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, most likely it was Reddit users reporting him, but correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the link of that survey go to an official website that would have had to have been approved by the board of DeSales at that point?
Well, it should have been over with, though. He was done. Him still wanting to have that up past May of 2022. Why? You're done with school.
Yeah.
Like, it could no longer be for DeSales because you're graduated and now you're going on to WSU. I want to know when he was accepted into the school. When did he get officially accepted for WSU? Because that's going to matter. I want to know if it was before or after March of 2022. It's going to be so important, in my opinion, for how they would go about strategically with this case. Because how I would defend the case is that the dude, like, he was going to kill, whether it didn't matter where. And there was nothing that was going to prevent that, because he bought the knife already in Pennsylvania, right? And so then he's crossing all these state lines, right, with his little knife to come and live. So when did he start preparing for this crime? And he started preparing for this crime before, right?
Right. Well, and that's again, that has to be the argument. And my point, though, is that so I mean, he could have forgotten to take it down. I would guess even on YouTube here, if you
No, he didn't forget to take it down because he kept writing them after May
he
of
kept
2020.
looking into
Yeah, he
into
kept
them.
trying. He kept in June, July. He was, yeah, because that's in the discovery we have that. So he kept at it. He was like wondering what the hell, why is, and that was after May. So
Is that
and then,
unrealistic?
and then he
though?
gave up with it. He never even looked back at that fucking thing for like a long time.
Right. So that's right. Okay, I see your point though. Like,
You get what I'm trying to say? Like it was like,
Yeah.
he cared about it being on. So when he was actually physically in WSU, when I say moved there, he had logged into that and to write them. And he only did it like once or twice, and then it didn't happen again.
if it's his same Reddit profile, I'm just thinking through any possible reason, right? If it's his same Reddit profile and he goes on and he sees old messages and he's obviously still pursuing that same profession at a
Mhm.
now higher level, maybe he just responded. I don't know.
I'm saying there was nothing like, there was no more action with it after. There's just one time right when he got to WSU, and that was it. So it wasn't something that he kept on
Right.
looking at or dealing with or commenting to people with during like August, September, October, November. No, none of that was happening. And that's proven by it's in the MPD stuff that was downloaded that we have in the discovery. So I went through all of that because I was curious of the dates.
Yeah.
And I think he just didn't want that bad mark on his Reddit account that your post got reported. I think he wanted to clear that up. It's like kind of like your YouTube channel.
Right.
If somebody was to report, it's not because I want the fucking video up so much as I don't want there to be a mark against me for violating a community guideline or some shit like that. So I'm going to fight that, you know?
Of course. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like think about this. If I made a video a year ago, somebody can go and report it right now. And I'm like, what the fuck? That video is so old. That means somebody sought out my video to report it. And then I'm a fucking asshole that's like, watch me. And I want to appeal it. And I'm going to say, it doesn't violate this is this because I don't want that mark. It's not so much that I give a shit about the video that I made a year ago. It's the principle for me. That's me though. I'm not going to let you come at one of my videos from back then. But that's what made me deal with it a year later. And so for him, if somebody had reported that and then he's dealing with that, then it would have a completely different picture to the jury as to why he was even anything to do with it after the fact of being out of, grad school at DeSales.
Yeah. And, even for myself at times, it's hard to remember the civil lawsuit has way less burden of a proof than the criminal lawsuit. And,
correct.
So like, I'm like, well, that doesn't really matter about the crime. Well, it's not really about the crime. That's the part. It's all of the just, what is he doing? Why is he doing it?
It has nothing to do with the crime.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yep.
It has to do with, could stuff have been prevented, and could well then just fuck. I know this is gonna sound bad, but he wouldn't have, if they pull his funding and they take away his housing, okay, that means he's not getting paid a paycheck every 2 weeks. That's like, I don't know, $1,500. He doesn't have his housing, so he would then have to physically get into his vehicle, and leave and go back to wherever. And if they would have been on it from day one, and what the website, or not the website, but what the lawsuit goes through is that this is your own manual that you guys say that you're supposed to do. And everybody signs away their lives when they're going to this college, that literally you're supposed to monitor people because you're asking them to sign these ridiculous fucking privacy waivers. I never knew what type of privacy waivers that people are being, that we'll just use that those people that go to that college were signing. You have no privacy. They can come into your apartment whenever they want. They can look at every single thing that you are online with. Everything. If you're using with your phone on the Wi-Fi there, they're in it. A computer, they're in it. They can come in. You're not allowed to have a knife. You're not allowed to have a weapon. They can just go through your shit whenever. They do not have to set up a time with you. What else was it? You have to go to all your classes, and you can't be late to things. And that's why they were trying to keep a tally with that. This whole tally, the way that these idiots from Idaho State Police, they can't even fucking pay attention. The tallying that they were doing, they were trying to strategically, because I think what they were told is, you guys, you can't just kick people out because you don't like them or they piss you off, like we've been talking about here. You have to, so somebody would have looked at, here's the manual and what is he violating that we can get him on? Oh, look at this. He doesn't come. He's got to come to these classes on time, or he's got to. So they were looking at all the different ways that if they kept a record of what he was doing that was violating the policy that we are all signing off when we come to be a TA, and if we can remove him from being a TA, and he doesn't get that money every 2 weeks, then we make him so that he's. Remember how he was going to be a non-resident? You guys remember this? He was paying a residence fee to go to WSU. He should have been paying a non-resident fee, but they waived that. Okay. That's why Bryan had to go and claim residency when he was trying to establish, because he didn't need to, because they were waiving the non-resident. When you go to college, and if you live in the state, there's a fee. Here's your tuition. When you don't live in the state, this is your fee. This is your tuition amount. Okay. And when you're out of state, it's way more money. Well, when I was reading this discovery and this fucking lawsuit, I saw, oh my God, holy crap. Listen to this. Bryan Kohberger, they waived his non-resident fee. That's unheard of. Why are you waiving that? So then I'm like, why does Bryan Kohberger have to become a resident? Well, I
want to know, back to your point, Len, about everything that these employers would make you sign that allows, them to have this reach into any aspect in your life that they want, right? Yeah. Like you laid that out. Humor me on this. If they have access to be able to do all that and they still didn't predict it, right? It just seems like there could be this stepping stone toward AI modeling for predictive behavior.
Well, they kind of do that already. But what the parents are claiming is that there's evidence that WSU has that shows, because maybe Bryan Kohberger wiped down his computer in that month leading up to the murders. What the parents are claiming is that he couldn't wipe down your fucking the net. He cannot wipe down what his IP address was searching on your net, on your server, right? So why didn't the feds and or MPD or WSU or whoever needs to do it, why was there not a subpoena for all of that information that exists that you can get? I was like, oh my God, I went back and looked at the search warrants. I was like, holy shit, they didn't go and get this RestNet, whatever the hell it was called. And it's like, the parents are saying, listen, he cleaned his computer, but we can show what type of planning he did, and you guys know that it exists that month or two leading up to it, if we can have that database that you guys preserved. And then the parents said the only way that we wouldn't be able to get that is if WSU already deleted it. And I said, oh my God, this is going to be insane. This is going to be that's like the kicker right there, is that those should have been preserved and they should still exist to this day. But the only way that they don't is if WSU deleted that.
Right. So just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, I think back to the post-sentencing press conference where the investigators are like, it could have been the thumbs up picture. He's taking that regularly, or if he called his mom, or if he looks into stuff like normal criminology student does. I believe that they included he had wiped his computer frequently. You're saying whether or not Bryan did that on his computer, if WSU had the reach into that and then WSU cleared it, That you're
WSU
right.
could've
That
saved
is
it,
weird
preserved
no
it.
matter what. I agree with that. That is weird
And-
if they did wipe it then.
Well, this is what's weirder to me is that why isn't Moscow Police Department as well as the feds, like they know that because they knew that he was on that when you live there, Blaker even wrote it, everybody knows you don't pay for your internet. They provide it for you. And I was like, well, there you go. I know why they do that. So they can monitor
Right.
you. Okay. And so it's like everybody would know that. Why wouldn't you go and get the material then and be using it in the fucking upcoming trial, right? You would go and get it immediately December 30th to between December 30th and January, whatever date. That has to be one of the first things that you're going to go and get a search warrant for or a subpoena for, depending if the feds are doing it, who's ever doing it. And what the families are telling the world in that lawsuit is that they never went and did it.
Right.
Or they did. Okay. And what you're going to sit here and tell me that Ann Taylor wasn't asking about where all that stuff at? Like, because trust me, if it was damaging to Bryan Kohberger, you'd be like, yeah, this is exactly what we can prove, like what he was Googling, what he was looking up, how he was plotting and planning this, right? How he was researching like where the cameras are for all the license plate readers, shit like that. Oh, but wait. If we use that, then WSU's on the hook because WSU is supposed to be monitoring that. And this would have been a guy that, with all these complaints that are going on, that's when you are tapping into, okay, let's make sure he doesn't have any weapons in the room so we can go in there. Let's just, people are concerned about the safety. So we'll go into that. Let's look at, let's see what IP addresses he's using with his, computer and phone. Let's see what they're working. Let's see what he's looking at. Let's see what he's doing. That's the type of stuff that, and if the families are saying, holy shit, this is what people are signing their lives away when they're coming out of these campuses so that you are watching everything to keep everybody safe. And here you're too busy dealing with your perverted WSU police department and your Pullman police department and all the fuckerage that's going on, that if you didn't have to worry about that, you would have caught this and he would have been gone. And I want to know if, and I think that there's legs there because I think that the information is really, really damning. And I think that they deleted it.
You kind of just honestly, you kind of blew my mind a little bit with the way you pieced it together with if it was going to be damaging to Bryan and they didn't show it, right? Are we expected to believe that Ann Taylor and the state both didn't know that WSU has been providing the internet? They, you don't pay for it, like you just said. So they provide it, they get access to it. Neither of them, whether it was damaging to Kohberger or didn't, went and pulled it, or let's say this, they asked for it. And that's when WSU admits.
And that's when WSU said, oh my God, I don't know. Somehow it got deleted.
That could be.
But where is that in a report? Where is that
Right.
in a report? That doesn't exist anywhere. What also doesn't exist is that you don't have to go and ask WSU for a shit. You go and you get a subpoena and you're getting it. And so where's the feds? They were just subpoenaing everything, right? How is that not the number one thing that you're subpoenaing with Bryan Kohberger shit?
Yeah. No, it makes sense to me. Again, it makes sense to me, especially after learning how low and how different the burden of proof is for a civil suit. They're
protecting WSU. That's what this is all about. They protected WSU and they were protecting Moscow. They were protecting the two biggest entities in both of those areas, which is the universities. The universities call the shots. The universities run those areas. And that's what this is going to be about. This is going to be about that. It's really dangerous that these aren't the first lives, in my opinion, that have, if certain things, if you're following your protocols, they're saying that this could have been avoided. And do I think that if you guys think Bryan Kohberger is a killer and he was planning this and already thinking about this type of shit, yes, I don't think that those 4 kids would have been killed, but I do think that people would have died, but they just wouldn't have been those 4 kids. So that's and I just don't. So they're going to win the lawsuit though, because it's about what they've endured in as as victims. So I think
Well,
that they're going to win.
Referring back to the domino effect. So I love like your chat. I see Germilla in here. She's in the Hives chat every now and
Who
again.
is
She
it?
just said domino effect. It's Germilla?
Yeah,
Um,
domino effect.
Yeah, no, like, so I just thought back to, is there ever a situation where WSU does have it? Or like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think somebody would have to come clean. If we would have had a freaking trial and people would actually have told the truth on that stand, the shit that was going to come out in that trial, like for once I was like, yeah, bring it down. And what was going to happen though is Bryan Kohberger was going to walk, whether he did it or not. But I'm saying that he was going to walk, whether it's in that trial or whether it was going to be an appeal. Bryan Kohberger, in my opinion, was going to walk because all of the evidence that they were going to present in that trial was, most of it was inadmissible because they got it illegally. And if it didn't come out at that trial, it was going to come out in the appeal because Hitler made joke decisions with his rulings and his orders. They would have all been overturned, in my opinion. But at the same time, then that breaks my heart for all of us, to include the families, obviously. But I don't want to kill her to walk free. Nobody,
right.
But we can't have people in positions of power that are doing the things that happen in the Idaho4 case. Like, they need to get the fuck out. And the only way that you can get people like that out is to expose it. Not in a plea deal. All Bill Thompson did was save all of his little cronies. He saved not just their careers, but their pensions. This was all about themselves. And that's what these families are going to expose. So everybody that's like, I just want everybody to understand that this lawsuit, when I say the domino effect, it's going to show where and how all the protection was. And it was only ever to protect the University of Idaho and WSU, period. And this case would have gone unsolved for the whole entire. That's what I think WSU and Idaho would have rather have had, is an unsolved case, because now look at this. Look at all the stuff that's coming out, and we're viewing all this stuff, and we would be the jurors. I'm sorry, but no juror, if you were a good defense attorney and you put this stuff together and you have those good experts, which Ann Taylor did. I just don't know how strong Ann Taylor is as a litigator. I question that. I question her. I'm like, let's fucking go type of person. And I didn't see the passion that I saw in Moscow of her with maybe she just kept on getting defeated by just the ridiculousness of it. Maybe then that's when they went into a different, like, we're going to play this longer game but this case 1000% was winnable for the defendant, like, because you're going to be able to show that you cannot trust what the state put in front of you. And that's why you would say not guilty.
Right. And
so
hate it or love it, if there's two possibilities, or if there's just this very simple term, reasonable doubt, right? That's the system. Like, that's what it's designed for. So it, obviously in a perfect world, I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know, but it ideally requires all of the people in positions of power to be on the up and up, so that can't be, a defense strategy to get somebody off on reasonable doubt. Right. And then also it requires the juries to make sure that they're really looking at the evidence. And I just think the system is strayed very far away from it in this case, like you just kind of laid out. It's not okay.
Yeah, you can be able to use the death penalty as a bargaining chip. And I don't think that no lawyer should ever be put in the position when a client is to ask them what to do. Like, what do you think? So I'm not going to play Russian roulette with your life. So when you ask me, like, what I think that's why the death penalty needs to go away, is because of the lawyer. We should not be putting our citizens, each other, in a situation like that. That fuck what the person wants. Like, it's not about the person that's the defendant at that point. We can't have the death penalty, in my opinion, because of what we would be putting a jury through, who's going to have to decide on the that sentencing part. And then the lawyer in that team who is defending that defendant, like, we shouldn't be putting people in that position. That's why we should not have the death penalty, in my opinion. It doesn't have to do with anything but take religion out. It's we shouldn't do that to each other as citizens of the United States of America, because it's laughable. It's laughable that what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like I should be able to go fight for your case, and you want to claim that you're innocent, and we have all this evidence, but at the end of the day, I'm a lawyer and I signed some oath that I am also supposed to save your life. And if somebody wants to offer a plea deal, I have to take that to you, and I have to tell you that, yeah, you should probably take this, because I'm not going to have you die in 15 years because we lose this. And if I would have just told you to take that deal, then, you wouldn't be executed. Like, nobody should be put in that situation.
Hurwitz has talked about in Idaho, they've had people that are appealing for 40 years on death row, right? Like and every time that somebody appeals, the family that was that of the victims, they get these notifications, they kind of relive the trauma. I understand that. I think one of the most important things that you said is using the death penalty as a bargaining chip. Full transparency, I had not thought much about the death penalty in sentencing until this case. My opinion on it, for whatever it's worth, I feel like in general, there should be a certain set of requirements that if the death penalty is going to be a punishment, there should be very non-negotiable evidence that is almost, you can't argue against it. Like there should be like if it doesn't go away fully.
Yeah. Once you file for the death penalty,
right,
you take away, there is no plea deal at that point. So once the state wants to go ahead and move forward with the death penalty, okay, the only thing that could ever happen is well, we're going to remove the death penalty, but it's not because we're doing a plea deal or anything like that. We're just going to remove it because, X, Y, and Z. But that needs to change. Think about it this way. Why in the world, if we're going to reverse it, and let's say that we're all prosecutors here, why in the world, if you truly think about this, why in the world would we offer a plea deal the 23rd hour, right? Why would we ever do that? Why would we, who we've busted our ass to put all this case together, we have, he's the guy, we have all of this amazing evidence, he's fucking toast, he did all these things. Why would we ever even plead? Why would we do that? And you can't say it's because of money, because we just burned through millions of dollars. So it's not because of that. And anybody that wants to say that, that's the pussy ass way out. In my opinion, there's only one reason that we would ever do that. Ever. If we were all prosecutors here and we had to talk about it, and it was like, why would we ever offer this person a plea deal? Offer.
It is, in a way, too, like a very unfair trump card in negotiating to get somebody to talk about admitting guilt, right? The prosecution can always throw the death penalty up on the table to your point. So it should be used as a bargaining chip. I just think that is one of the best ways to put it. The death penalty should not be used as a bargaining chip to get somebody to settle with a plea deal if it's never going to go to trial, right?
Yeah, but what, but we're supposed to we are literally supposed to go to trial, let's say in 3 weeks. We just prepped for 3 years. Why in the world would I ever look to you and say, Bertie, let's offer him life without the possibility of parole. He pleads to everything as is, fixed everything, blah, blah, blah. And wouldn't you look to me and you'd say, what the hell are you talking about? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I would say, well, Bertie, let me tell you why. I'm retiring here in a couple years, not even, okay? But you and all the men around us and the women around us that work, if this goes to trial, there's a chance that you're out of job, I'm out of pension, and same thing with these other people.
Yeah.
That's the only fucking reason you would ever do a plea deal. And what I'm kind of surprised is that I think that I would not be surprised if Bill Thompson actually wanted Bryan to say all the things, and Ann Taylor said, we're not doing anything like that, and said, no, these are our terms, and go fuck yourself. And he turned back and said, okay. Because I think he would be an idiot and a fool, but he's going to come out and tell the world because he knows that Ann's not going to say anything, because I think he knows that Ann's going to attempt or influence her client to say that he didn't do it. And you're buying yourself some time. Let some things get put together behind the scenes, and you're going to put together a habeas. And that's just the way that it's going to be. But you would never. Why would you, right before trial, you have everything set up, everything already had to be in. You've done literally everything, and you're going to say, hey, let's give this person a plea deal. Why? Well,
yeah.
Because we're going to get our asses handed to us. We are. I thought that we're untouchable. Come on, you know that we know what we did, right? And it's just not worth it. Well, what's not worth it? Your careers, your livelihood, everything to do with you, all these people. And that's why these FOIAs are so important. Get the truth out, man. And then anybody out there that's just like totally lying to themselves, there was no probable cause for this arrest. None. Because it was all lies, because they lied about it all. There should have been a Franks, and every excuse that Hitler was making as to, yeah, no, that wasn't lying with disregard of the truth. Everything was. Yes, it was. Then they come out and say that, yep, we didn't get to Bryan any of this way, and it was all the IGG. How the fuck? Literally right after he, does his order and his ruling, then they come out and say this crap. It's like, oh my God, how can this be more blatant? And that's why Cyree wrote that affidavit. Because he's like, I've never seen such blatant in my 30 years of working with the prosecution all the time. Have I ever seen this in my entire life?
I agree.
But we're conspiracy theorists. Cyree is not a conspiracy theorist. Wake up, people. It doesn't mean that Bryan Kohberger is innocent. It just means that this is all built on lies. And one should ask, why? If IGG is so great and they want to make it the future, awesome. Why couldn't you put in your probable cause? Well, because we don't have to. Well, then guess what? Think again, because there's a lot of cases out there where using IGG was put in the probable cause because that's how people knew that it was used. It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. What's up, Boston? I see you.
Did you get to the part of that Nancy Grace interview where they talk about the FOIA request and how they were kind of talking about how it's in the beginning. They were talking about like how if something's FOIA,
the people that are making it the money part is Moscow is charging all the money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's Moscow's charging the money, and then what they're doing is it's coming out in a certain order. I wanted to hear what she had to say about this part, though. Hold on.
Sleeping.
Okay.
Yeah. Then, in a fit of anger, he calls his father and says, "Why won't she?"
Sent him links.
Okay.
Have you thought about this?
Oh yeah.
We know more than just that. We know from some of the stuff they pulled from his phone. She sent him links to the story. So
not that same day, but shortly after.
Yeah, shortly after. So yeah. And we know about they gave the bolo out on the car, and then just within a day or two, they start booking a flight to go get him. And then he wasn't coming back with that car. That whole trip to Pennsylvania was to get rid of evidence, his car, and help him clean it. As soon as he pulled up to the house, Dad jumped out of the car, moved his car out, and put his in the garage. So yeah, there's more to that too, but there's only so much we can focus on. And
okay, so that tells me that they had eyes on him the entire trip. Okay. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if he's, hold on, where are we at? Oh wait, Birdie's not there. Hold on. We'll go back like this. This tells me so I want you guys to listen to this, which is, I was told that the FBI was watching, and the question should be then is why did you need a trap chin? Like, that's what Cyree was saying, is that you don't go, if you have eyes on him, you don't need a pen, trap, and trace. And so why are you lying and acting like you don't know where he's at? You know, and that's why they had to act like they didn't. That's where that also with the whole timing advance records, you had his timing advance records. That's how you were able to track him in real time.
Knew nothing. And as a sister is saying to the New York Times, we had no idea. Really? What were they talking about? Have you thought about this?
Oh, yeah.
We know more than just that. We know from some of the stuff they pulled from his phone. She sent him links to the story. So
Not that same day, but shortly after.
yeah, shortly after. So yeah.
I
And
think that's kind of normal that you would be sent the links. Like when stuff's going on around me, my mom sends me links all the time about something that's going on. Oh, hey, check this out or something.
we know about, they gave the bolo out on the car, and then just within a day or two, they start booking a flight to go get him. And then he wasn't coming back with that car. That whole trip to Pennsylvania was to get rid of evidence, his car, and help him clean it. As soon as he pulled up to the house, Dad jumped out of the car, moved his car out, and put his in the garage. So yeah, there's more to that too, but there's only so much we can focus on.
You know, the question also is here for me is, you guys, they're going off of everything that they've been told. Okay. They're repeating things that they've been told. So we know that they've been lying, though. When I say they, not the parents, these FBI agents, these ISP agents, these Moscow Police Department, they've been lying. Okay. They've been lying. So if they're lying in sworn statements, don't you think that they're going to lie to somebody not in a sworn statement? Okay. But I get it. I get the family's only saying, this is what we were told. And when people are saying, oh my God, the G's are lying again, I'm like, no, back up a second. Because I've always said it. Hey, don't believe everything that they're telling you. Gonsalves, I'm telling you, they're fucking liars. Okay. And so it's like that game. If our friend was to die, Birdie, right? And we were hanging out with our friend, right? The night before it. And the police come and they talk to you and they talk to me separately. And we tell them everything that our friend told us when we were all hanging out, right?
Yep.
Then comes to find out, well, me and you then start talking. And I'm like, yeah, they were asking me about this, and this. And you're like, yeah, and I was telling them what, our friend was saying. And yep, da-da-da. Well, come to find out, our friend lied to us, right? But we're telling these lies that our friend told us to the police, right? And we have the same story on this lie, right? That's when the cops would be like, what the fuck are those two lying about so bad? And it's like, we didn't lie. Our friend lied to us about their life because they were trying to hide something from us because they were embarrassed or whatever the case could be. It's no different. We didn't lie to the cops. We were lied to by our friend. Okay. And then we're repeating the lie that was told. It happened in the Chris and Shanann Watts case. But more importantly, these parents, everything that they know about this case is from the mouths of the liars, from the leakers.
And it's even referenced slightly by them where Steve has about to mention, maybe it already happened if it was earlier in the interview. He talks about how we were told if we just go along with this, then, this is what's going to play out. And then we have other people that are more experienced in this and that never happens. You never just go along with what, either the state is telling you, this is what's going to play out. Just agree to this. And then we'll work on it in the back end. It doesn't really ever happen that way. I can see.
I have
the
to answer
average
pumpkin. Go ahead. Keep going.
I was just going to say, to finish that point quick, I can see the average person who's in that situation more times than not, probably just taking the advice of the state or the cops and just saying,
absolutely.
this,
I totally agree. Absolutely. Why would you ever like the cops are your only hope to solving your kid's case? I mean, if it's not them, who else? You know what I mean? Like, I get that. Like, that's your only hope. I totally disagree, Pumpkin. I'm gonna tell you why. G's lied too. They kept saying about stalking and being by the house 23 times when everyone knew it's not true. No, listen. Mm-mm. Bryan Kohberger's vehicle, if you are going into Moscow and you're on, if it's just the tower, okay, he was in and around the house 23 times because of the tower, right? Well, the reason that Steve G was telling us, like, no, I know that you went by that house 23 times. You guys, he was told this because of the timing advance records. They had Brian's timing advance records, but then they had to act like they didn't have them because the timing advance records on the night of the murder actually proved the opposite of what the state was saying. But then they were like, okay, we're just have to act like we didn't have the timing advance records. But the G's actually came out and by them telling the world, hey, this is what they told us. That was the biggest tell to me that they always had the timing advance records because of the things that Steve Gonsalves said. It's because they did have the timing advance records. They told him things because they're the leakers. The state is the leakers, the prosecutors, and the cops. But the reason that Bill Thompson and all of them are saying, no, he wasn't stalking, no, he didn't do this, is because then they're going to be going into the trial with that voir dire with Nick Balance, and he's going to say, no, we never had the timing advance records. That's what that's all about.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so he did not lie. I'm telling you, he did not fucking lie. And that is the timing advance records. That is what Cyray is saying, that exactly, Steve, you know that stuff about the 23 times and about going around the house and exactly pinpointing where you're at. Now you're not talking about a tower. You're talking about timing advanced. Lana, but they said that after the sentencing. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Steve Gonsalves came out so long ago talking about that he was right by the house, and the one thing that he actually did correct is he said that Bryan Kohberger never attached to the Wi-Fi. Okay. He said, I think I got that wrong. And he admitted that. Okay. But everything that they're telling the world, and anytime that they've ever talked, you guys, you're allowed to misspeak or hear something wrong. That's not lying. Okay. But what they're trying, and anytime that they've ever spoken, they've heard it from somebody. They're not fucking just making it up out of thin air. I'm telling you that right now. Whether it was good intel or whether it was bad, they were telling you and us and me. They're just saying what they've been told. And I'm telling you that people are looking at it the wrong way. When you actually, if you turn it, you can actually figure out a lot of things, and instead of going over here and saying the G's are lying. No, they've been lied to, and some people were bastards, you know? But anybody that's looking at those crime scene photos and to think that happened in 2 minutes, yeah, I would say keep playing with, Santa Claus, keep believing over there. It's wild.
So much we can work on, but we're not fools.
Yeah. And we do know that he was wearing gloves inside the house almost the whole time. Matter of fact, when they went in to arrest him, he was indeed sitting at the kitchen table, wearing gloves, sorting trash. Now, whether he was doing that while the family was all sleeping, I find it hard to believe that they didn't notice that he was going around with.
Hey, guys, somebody told them that. Now, all I will say is somebody told them that. Now, all I will say is go look through the pictures that were taken at the house during his arrest. Where's his gloves that they would have taken off of him? And, right by where all of that stuff, like, you arrested the guy, right? He should have gloves on when you arrest him, right? You're taking him out, you're zip tying him. Where are any of those pictures? Where's all that shit? Like, let's go get that shit. Well, that's Pennsylvania, and they're a bunch of, like, you want to talk about a place that tries to not give out FOIAs? Pennsylvania. This is the feds, and this is Idaho State Police that went with them, and now everyone's talking about how did you guys? I get it that the feds are going in there with you, but Pennsylvania State Police were there. Why wasn't Moscow Police Department is there as well, and why weren't they all cammed up?
Yeah, the arrest would be very interesting to see. The arrest would be interesting to see, and sorting trash with gloves on. I don't think he's probably the only person that does that. It could be gross in general if you're a germaphobe, but they were told that clearly. They were told that that's how it went down. So if you're told,
that's what I'm saying. Like they're told this, guys. They're not making this up. Somebody told them this. Just like we got told from Bryan Kohberger that he said who else was arrested, but yet the defense comes out and shows the world that that wasn't in one report. Where is this coming from? Who has said this? And it was like a big, like, you know, that clearly for Bryan. And then here's Bryan Kohberger. I try to write him and say, hey, why don't you talk about that? Why don't you talk about? We're not asking you to reveal first government name or anything like that, but why don't you come up and, or at least make some type of a comment, and say, I stand by that. I stand by my source and what they said. You know, and other times that he's been called out, he's made those statements that he would stand by his source. That he's a fart in the wind. He will never comment on that shit. And it's like, dude, your source is shit. But somebody told you to put that out there, or somebody felt that they could tell you and that here you would go with it because like you believed in this source. Well, that source clipped your nuts, Mr. Enton. How did it feel? Because you got used. That's what clips your nuts mean. Okay, you got used to get that out there, and that was for pre-trial, extrajudicial statements to be, you know, hey, pump this, and that's what the cops do after there's an arrest.
No,
it's
I think
they come after. It's everything and anything that's going to be, you know, start making up all this shit, and it's like, dude, how like you got no ethics if you can just. I would, if a source did that to me that I trusted, I'd pick up my fucking phone and say, are you out of your fucking mind? Give me one reason that I don't out you right now. I know it's probably late for you. You got to go.
Well, I was just going to say real quick, my last point that I wanted to say is like, they probably didn't. What are the odds that they saw the arrest footage of Bryan Kohberger?
No, there is none.
That's what I'm saying. So,
I believe that there is none, by the way, as well, because that's how they operate.
You don't think they were cammed up at all? You don't think they wore any cams?
I know that Pennsylvania does not. The Pennsylvania State Police, they do not wear cams.
That's so crazy.
Yep, they didn't have them yet. I don't even know if they have them now. So they did not have cams, but FBI, no. But the people that could have had cams on
didn't.
Why wasn't Moscow Police? I'm like, dash cams. I mean, a drone. Like nothing, you know, just.
You're right. And no, I'm going to hop off. I appreciate you inviting me on. I got to get you back over to the Hive soon.
I wanted to have you on. I wanted to talk. I was like, come on. But yeah, let's do one. I want to come over to the Hive too. Let's do one where I think I have someone that will come on with us. That's
nice.
It's a potential witness from the case, and so
jeez. I
think maybe they need some Hive type questions.
Well, I'm here for you, and to everybody that tuned in, thank you guys. And
okay, like thank you, Birdie.
I did my stream
I gotta
earlier,
go too.
But...
It's like fucking midnight, man. Let's go.
All right, thanks everyone. Thanks, Lana. Peace.
Oh wait, last question, Birdie. Last question. Eric Gower's Lyft account subpoenaed. Why was there no Lyft account subpoenaed? Isn't that crazy?
It's all crazy, Lana. It's all crazy. There's how many things do you think you pointed out? Over under 500 that haven't been followed properly.
Easy.
It just makes no sense.
I keep forgetting all the shit I keep pointing out. That's why I got to keep reading through the document. I'm like, yep. Like it's so much shit. It's so much shit. And I get it. 4 people were killed or whatever. And so you feel like it's like quadruple the amount, but no, not really. So, all right, go to bed.
All right. See you guys.
All right. I'll text you, hon. Okay.
Yep, see you.
Tell wife I said hi.
I will. Peace.
Okay. Bye. We love Birdie. Birdie's one of the best dudes. I'm telling you. Such a fucking good dude. Love hanging out with him.
Wearing gloves. Maybe he was sorting trash only.
Work, but never, they don't have the education.
So many people
Here the rest of your life. What is your message tonight, Mr. and Mrs. Gonsalves?
You know, it really is just, you know, with society changing the way it is and people, so many people having access to it via the internet and being able to get these pictures, they fall in the wrong hands. And it's just...
everybody's a news network, but never, they don't have the education to be
I mean,
journalist.
an 18-year-old TikToker, you know, getting them out there and just
I wouldn't have done the
them.
right thing at 18 either. So
Yeah.
it's just, our leaders have to be better than this.
And we are no different than people in the past. I'm not trying to say that we're better but things need to change. It's a time to change this.
You know what? For the first time ever, Mr. and Mrs. Gonsalves, I completely disagree with you. I think right is right and wrong is wrong. And there's no excuse for that. There is no excuse for hurting the victims' families for your own monetary gain. For a moment, for another click, for a...
Oh my God. Nancy. You have the Gonsalveses on for a click. I mean, I'm just shocked that she said that. Oh God. Nance, come on, man. I actually agree with the Gonsalveses there that, hey, yes, this day and age has changed. The internet, you know, you can get your hands on it, but I agree with that. But I will say this, that if mainstream media would actually be unbiased and actually put out the stuff, I get it that if you can only have a 5-minute segment or a 25-minute segment and whatever you want to, hey, put the material out in a link that I get to read from the documents that you made your 5 minutes, you know, push, that however you wanted to say that you're non-biased. You're unbiased. I mean, unbiased coverage, you know. No, instead, what mainstream media does is they hide the whole piece and they just, here, this is the only clip that I'm going to give you. And it's like, that's great. That's your, here's your 5 minutes. Okay, sure. Yep. Now, where's the link right after it or right like underneath that I had to just, you know, watch your bullshit, that then I can click and read the documents for myself. You know, you don't educate and you're not providing the material for the community. And that's why platforms like YouTube are fucking amazing. Especially the people that actually go out there, like I try to do with my channel, go out there, get the material. Hey, here, this is the whole piece of it. This is what you, here. And I don't see Nancy doing that. Nancy literally just took 4 lines from Melissa Kohberger and roasted her. And then asked questions of the Gonsalveses to like say, here, what do you want to say about this family? And I'm just like, I didn't think that the family was speaking. I thought it was just one person. And it was just from her perspective of things like, and then she doesn't have the final editing say of however that came out, you know? And I don't think why I got to pit Bryan Kohberger's family. They're victims in a different way, but they definitely are victims, Nancy, and you know it.
Higher rating. It feels wrong. It is wrong. There's something wrong when you feel like...
Yeah, it felt wrong to me. And that's why I said I would want to put out the pictures that were just really, really talking about in certain rooms. And yep, nope. We're gonna be transparent, but we're gonna do that stuff not behind a paywall, but by an extra link that you would have to go to and click to then, you know. But dude, we have 2 tales here, you guys. The defense was telling us something and the prosecution was telling us something for 3 years. And then all of a sudden, plea deal, and we're going to try to make it so hard for you to get your hands on all of this shit. Why?
Is this right? It's not right. When you feel those tingles or you feel hot, when you're saying something or doing something, stop. Because it's wrong. And your conscience weigh with the no tonight. This is the time to call American Finance. Describe what you saw.
Nancy, I am so thankful of the decision you've made to not show the photos. What I saw was worse than anything I imagined throughout all of our coverage of this. And when I saw the blood in the bedrooms, and I mean, we're talking on the floor, on the bed, on the walls.
That's what's his name said in the beginning. There was blood all over. You guys know what I'm talking about? Here. My black guy, what's his name? You guys know who I'm talking about.
We're not talking about a car accident. We are talking about girls being horrifically murdered by.
Yeah, in which you guys were saying that happened in 2 minutes. Does this change your mind at all about that?
Kohberger. And what we're looking at, there was one of the photos, Nancy, that shows one of the girl's hair in the blood. And I being subjected to this. For what? For an interest? The blood is worse than we were told.
Oh, it's much worse than what we thought we were going to see. Justice Scott Morgan joining me, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, with an incredible.
How can they literally have this type of conversation and not say over the air, you guys, this wasn't just worse than what we were told. This was completely like opposite. It's not worse. This is opposite of what we were told. We were told that this happened in the beds, in the sleeping, time frame. Everybody was in their room sleeping, blah, blah, in and out 2 minutes. That's opposite. This isn't like worse. This is just opposite. And it has to happen in that type of time frame for it to be that car and Kohberger speeding away at 420 in 42 seconds. Otherwise, you ain't pinging in Blaine at 448. Okay? And Kohberger's phone was pinging in Blaine at 448. And that's why there couldn't have been a cleanup for Kohberger. That's why they're like, oh my God, no. Because even if you just add 10 minutes, ain't no way he's going to be in Blaine pinging. And this would have taken longer than 10 minutes. But I think that's where the hammer would have been showing that, And if the state was smart, they would have said that this was like from, X amount of time to X amount of time, 253 to, 420. But that car wasn't over there yet.
Criminal procedure program, author, blood stabbed.
And here's the problem. You can't actually count them accurately because there's cross communication between the injuries, Nancy. They kind of overlap. That's how much damage was done. And the level of brutality, is something that, is going to ring in our ears forever and ever, because we've all heard this before. But now, because of a decision that has been made relative to this imagery, it refocuses it in a very ghoulish way against the wishes of the family. And Nancy, I got to tell you something. Here at Jack State, I work with current and former practitioners. That means that we're all investigators, current forensic scientists. And Nancy, to a person, when I poll them, I ask them, do you guys, to the best of your recollection, recall a homicide that you have worked that has been adjudicated and the subject is in an institution somewhere And then after this, all of the crime scene images are released by your organization or the DA or whoever it is to a person that couldn't recall a single instance. Nancy, I worked in New Orleans and Atlanta. And from an official standpoint, I don't ever recall. Now, that doesn't mean that there haven't been leaked things over the years, but this goes so far beyond the pale that this can be linked back. But this goes so far beyond the pale that this can be linked back to these people out there that seem to have a complete disconnect with reality.
I don't understand what is wrong with.
What did he just even say? That this could be linked back to people that have a disconnect with reality? What does that even mean? Yeah, Ted Williams. Love Ted Williams. Ted Williams. Now, his source was accurate. There's blood all over the walls, all over the floors. Remember? You guys. Dude. Oh, God.
The parents in advance. So why now? What is there to prove or disprove? Is it typical for crime victims' families to have to look at the crime scene photos? I always tried to shield them. Victims' investigation. Is
Okay, Nancy. Nancy, I have a question. Okay. Now, why isn't there a photo of when the sheath needs to get taken out of, like, right there? If you lift it up, okay, there should be a void, okay, right where the sheath is, a void, meaning like there should be nothing underneath where this sheath is, right? And there should be a picture to show that when you pick this up and remove it, that this sheath created a void in the spatter here, and that the sheath actually caught it, okay? And why isn't there that picture?
it typical for crime victims' families to have to look at the crime scene photos? I always tried to shield them, Chris.
No, absolutely not.
Crime scene photos.
And then does the right here, if you zoom in and you pay attention to the sheets with that, the spatter, the cast off, I think that's going to be spatter, but yeah, does it align? And we don't see any pictures. I don't know if they exist of, and I have a feeling that they don't exist, because when the woman, Paulette Sutton, did her report, she's not using, she has like 2 photos to pick from, but she doesn't talk to point out, like, here, as you can see, the void is there when you take the sheath away, and then when the sheath is right there, you can see the spatter all continues to be right in line because it's then on the knife sheath. But does it match up? Like, she wasn't even able to show that in her report to show that the sheath wasn't planted, because that's what the defense is saying, the sheath was planted, and they list their reasons why.
This knife sheath changed the trajectory, changed the course of this investigation. Is it typical for crime victims' families to have to?
The size of these droplets, Nancy, indicate to me that there is some level of velocity or speed in their deposition. So this is something that you're going to see either in an action move. It's not like passively dripping where you get the big drops. This is coming off of the action of actually stabbing or casting at that point in time. So they don't all have little tails on them, but you can see that there is some level of velocity because of the size of these things.
Okay, so then, and where is the size that matches to the sheath with what you see on the sheet? Like, that's my question to you, Mr. Morgan.
They're concentrated. They're very tiny.
Tell me exactly what's going on.
Also, wouldn't you agree that the sheath had to have been exposed more towards the end, if not right at the end, because there's no cross pattern with the cast off of coming from, and we're dealing with a bed that had over 75 stab wounds, or however many there were total, something like that. It's over 50.
I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Families, but now they have
So the fact that they did not even use their own internal risk assessment procedure to protect these victims, it's just shocking.
Okay.
I think they thought they were going to get sued if they fired Kohberger. Well, they're getting sued now because they did nothing.
They had their eye on the wrong thing, Nancy. Even one professor came forward and said, do not give this guy a PhD, because if you do, you will see him in the news years from now. He will have murdered, killed somebody. So there were multiple people coming forward. And I do think the university was paralyzed at the thought that Bryan Kohberger would sue them. And in fact, they saw themselves as a potential victim rather than thinking about all the victims in the classroom. Nancy, university students, especially women between the ages of 18 and 22, are notoriously targeted for and crimes. We know this about college campuses. So the fact that they did not even use their own internal risk assessment procedure to protect these victims, it's just shocking.
It is.
The lawsuit alleges almost immediately upon arrival to Pullman, Moscow, Kohberger developed a reputation for harassing and stalking, instilling fear among female students and fellow WSU employees. Records show at least 13 complaints were filed against Kohberger by other students in the criminology program.
Classmates and professors found Kohberger sexist and creepy. Female students avoided being left alone with him, and one faculty member warned he had the potential to become a future rapist. A faculty member said Kohberger is, quote, smart enough that in 4 years we will have to give him a PhD. But Mark,
can you imagine when this guy is going to have to testify? That professor, whoever said that, is going to be asked on the stand how in the world they could I mean, this is somebody who is so decorated and they, is the best of the best and writing books and shit like that. And they're, how do you make this type of a comment and not say to yourself, like, oh, well, we do have our protocols and procedural and manual right here that we need to just do X, Y, and Z, right? Or how about, after the murders that happened right down the road, that if you thought what you thought, that, oh, wow, you didn't turn Bryan in as a tip, right? Whew. And then, oh, wait, you hear about this car. And when you have to leave your office every single day that you walk out of Wilson Short Hall and you literally walk by a ticketed white Elantra, like on 10 different occasions, Bryan, white Elantra, murders, ridiculous. I cannot wait to hear the guy that said that Bryan was going to be a rapist on the stand and to say, oh, okay, so you just, we're going to be giving him one. But unbelievable. Exactly, Lana. That's why I'm saying don't believe anything you read in your discovery or FOIA request. What do you mean? Believe what you're reading. That stuff all happened there. If there's these 13 reports that were dated and can be shown that they were documented ahead of time and that they didn't follow their procedures, like, it's because there was a reason. There was a reason. We'll see.
my word, I work with predators. If we give him a PhD, that's the guy in many years when he is.
Can you imagine saying that? I work with predators. I know a predator when I see a predator. I go to the fucking police.
As a professor, we will hear he's harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing his students at wherever university.
My stars. And to Howard Blum, renowned author.
Howard Blum? Nancy! To Howard Blum. Running back to Howard Blum. I can't. I need a shot Nancy, get the tequila going. To Howard Black. What is wrong with this? To Howard Black. I gotta hear that again.
Abusing his students at wherever university.
My stars. And to Howard Blum, renowned author, he wrote, When the Night Comes Falling, Requiem for the Idaho Student's Murder. He has an article out this weekend in Air Mail titled, Did BK Have an Accomplice? I Make the Case. Howard Blum. It goes on and on. It was so bad that there was a system set up.
Is this Howard Blum? Howard Blum. This is Miss Oriana here. Howard Blum. Judy Blum. I'm sorry. This is crazy. Oh shit, Nancy. Oh, Nancy. What are you doing? Howard Blum.
For goes on, I make the case. Howard Blum. It goes on and on. It was so bad that there was a system set up for female students to text or email when they needed an escort to their car because they were afraid of Kohberger. I mean, you have been on this case from the beginning. Why didn't they act? I agree with the Gonsalves family.
I agree with them too, and I think it's really interesting that for once all four families are uniting to make a point. And I think their point is not specifically against WSU, Washington State University, but they want to establish once and for all that students, when your parents send students off to a university or a college, that they are protected. The university has a responsibility to make sure that the students are safe. And Washington State University ignored this, and it can't be done at Washington State University. It can't be done at other universities around the country. And that's the real purpose of this lawsuit. And it's a good one.
Eric Faddis joining me, high-profile lawyer, founder of the law offices of Eric Faddis, former felony prosecutor. Eric, what can Washington State University say in their defense? Because it's all documented.
Well, Nancy, thanks for having me. Well, I mean, WSU could really just come out and say that Bryan Kohberger is not the guy.
They're not just, he said this and she said that. They documented it. And then a day late and a dollar short, they decide to have an intervention. Way, way too late.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there were some clearly documented failures, errors, and omissions on behalf of Washington State University. I think what they're going to argue, Nancy, is they're going to argue causation because the plaintiffs have to essentially show that Washington State University's failures caused damages and in some of the claims caused or substantially contributed to the deaths. I think Washington State's going to say, hey, this was a madman. This was a psychopathic killer. We couldn't have done anything to stop this. He
was a psychopathic killer. He was destined to kill. You know, this was happening regardless. That's what I told you guys. Okay.
Would have done this anyway. And so I think that is the horse they're.
Yeah, but guess what the problem is though with that? They're not here. It's just about these four students though. He may have done this anyways, but not these four students wouldn't have been killed because if you aren't paying him and if he doesn't have a place to live here because he gets booted out, right? You're not living at those dorms. We're not paying you. What he's going to have to do, he's going to have to get into his car and drive on back to Pennsylvania, right? And then he can go kill on the way. But also, it's the fact of this. Had they have done that, then WSU is even if he goes and kills, basically, we did what we were supposed to do. You know, you cannot predict behavior. Correct? I completely agree. But the question's going to come down to is because he was an employee. Okay. That's what it's going to come down to me. And because of what he's signing away to be an employee there. Okay. You are giving up all of your privacy rights and it's for that you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and you can't do these things. And we're going to monitor you to make sure that you don't do these things. And when people come and complain about you, then these are our, this is how we assess the situation. These are our protocols. This is how we do things. And so you didn't follow that. And in fact, you did something that you weren't supposed to do, which was embarrass the person, which then makes them agitated and triggering. And that was just literally 48 hours before he committed the murders. When they had that on November 8th, that Friday or that Thursday, whatever it was, November 8th, they had that harassment meeting. And everybody wrote in their reports that everybody knew that it was for Kohberger. And it's like, what? Like that should have never been presented that way.
Likely going to ride.
The suit alleges the college did not take action in part because they feared firing Kohberger might open WSU up to a lawsuit. After the murders, Kohberger's supervising instructor and fellow graduate students immediately thought Kohberger committed the murders, but did not contact law enforcement. The plaintiffs named in the suit.
Wait a second. Did you hear that right there?
Thought Kohberger's supervising instructor and fellow graduate students immediately thought Kohberger committed the murders, but did not contact law enforcement. The plaintiffs named in the suit, Kayla Gonzava's dad, Maddie Mogan's mom, Xana Kernodle's dad, and Ethan Chapin's mom, argue WSU was obligated to control Kohberger as a teaching assistant and employee and resident of campus housing.
They hired him. Dr. Bethany Marshall doesn't
That's what
anybody check social media anymore. He talked about his heroin addiction. He talked about the white noise he hears all the time. Remember that?
I'm curious to hear about their process of how the whole application went, with him.
Like when you see snow on your TV.
God, Nancy,
did they not see any of that?
And that he felt like a piece of meat. He had no emotions. When he hugged his family members, he didn't feel anything.
You guys, they're acting like this was just so accessible, like that it was just blasted all over his Facebook or Instagram. No, it was not. These were in obscure places, like not Facebook, not Instagram, not Twitter, not X, whatever. Not these were not in. So that's where I want to know, like, what? That's not even. I don't think his heroin addiction would have anything to do with that. You're not going to get. What did he write about in his essay?
Nancy, this is actually a profound refusal to put their thoughts together about what was happening at their university. They looked at all the evidence, they talked about it, they had meetings, everything was documented.
She must not know the case. None of that's true. They didn't. No. She needs to read the lawsuit. This broad needs to read the lawsuit.
But there was a profound lack of a willingness to think about the students, to protect the students. Their fear of being sued was so self-serving. I mean, they prioritized that over women who are potentially raped. They're worried about themselves.
What? Women who were potentially raped? What is she talking about? Who was potentially raped?
To protect the students. Their fear of being sued was so self-serving. I mean, they prioritized that over women who are potentially raped. They're worried about themselves, like Melissa Kohberger. She's worried about her family. She's not talking about the victims' families. Like all these photos that are being released online, these ghoulish people.
She just needs to stop putting on the makeup and actually read documents. I have nothing more to say right now because I gotta just go and hang out with Howard Blum. Blum, get over here. I'm going to talk to Howard Blum myself. Oh, where is he? I just have to pass this woman right now.
She's gotten Bloom off. Circling back to Howard Bloom.
Oh, she got it right. No, Nancy, come on. Howard Blum.
author of the definitive book regarding the Idaho murders, and her green wig not judging. She's claiming that
why is she now bullying? Why is she saying anything about her hair? What dumbass. You that just doesn't go hand in hand, okay? Like she totally ruined her whole argument right there by doing that.
And her green wig not judging. She's claiming that she's gotten so famous to avoid being recognized, she has to wear heavy makeup and a wig, a green wig or a pink wig, wherever she goes.
What?
Okay, but the point is whining to the New York Times about her pain and her family's pain?
Whining, wow.
Well, I am sympathetic to the sister. I think she's a victim, but I also think she's not being totally candid. We just heard that at Washington State University, everyone thought he was a suspect, or so many people thought.
Nobody. What, dude? Are these people not reading the papers? I mean, this is why people refuse to come on my channel, probably because it's like, Lana's gonna call me out for every little thing, and then she's gonna take Hector and say, "No, it's right here. Do you see this? This is what it says." All right, guys, we've been together tonight for 3 hours and 26 minutes, and I'm gonna round it out. I want to say thank you to all of you guys for joining tonight. Oh, Birdie, I didn't even see this. Preach, motherfucker. I'm over here texting you like, hey, do you want the link? Are you in here? Birdie. Oh, a good fun night here with Birdie. Dumb question, was the vape found? See, how did I miss that? Birdie, were you here the whole time because I got to this one and I missed you? So crazy. Paul Taylor follow frame. Yeah. The vape pen, yeah. It was because the vape was the text at 2:15. And then at 2:26 was the call. And it supposedly lasts for 17 minutes, which takes you. I'm just saying, I'm shocked that Dylan nor Bethany say to any of the officers, oh, Kaylee's on the phone with, her boyfriend. Like, that would have stuck out because that's just during the time of when we want to order more food and potentially go out and grab stuff for food or have somebody bring it back to us. Dana Craig, thank you so much. Lady Liberty, great team. Yes, L&B all the way. We were given a false narrative for sure. Oh, hell yeah. All day. Tonight has just been very enlightening, especially Nancy Grace's new Howard Blum.
But he was a suspect. And yet his family had no idea. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I don't believe that the father, while he was sitting in a white Hyundai Elantra, while they were going across the country, that the police were looking for a white Hyundai Elantra, didn't have any idea that this was his son was involved in these murders. I think they're trying to make the best case possible, but I don't think they're being totally candid.
Well, that's certainly putting perfume on the pig, isn't it, Howard? Nothing. That's bizarre. I smell a book in the works. I'm just saying, somebody in the Kohberger camp is going to write a book about all their pain. Susan Hendricks, back to the lawsuit. The Gonsalveses are not.
Oh, Susan Hendricks, let me hear what you have to say.
Speaking about it. Susan, is it true that women had an email or a text that they could use because they were afraid of Kohberger to even walk to their cars?
They did. But it wasn't, females didn't have it. It was just email me 911 and I'll come back in. Email you 911. What the hell? If you need help, then you would just call 911. Like, email me 911. I'm going to be, what if I missed that? This is crazy.
Absolutely. And the email would say 911. I mean, they had a plan. They were petrified of this guy, to even where they had to make a code to say, I'm in trouble here, or leave the door open. I mean, it's just the red flags are everywhere in this lawsuit.
Everywhere, and they were all ignored. Chris McDonough joining us, cold case.
God, she's just having everybody on tonight. It's like a grand
pervy
finale.
behavior like peeping Tom, somebody's all at WSU.
You have been connecting these dots from day. No, not at all, Nancy. And
who did nothing about it.
no, not at all, Nancy. And you have been connecting these dots from day one. And
Dude, Chris McDonough, when I thought that you couldn't eat more fucking ass and lick more ass, you just surprised me again. McDonough literally licking Nancy Grace's. I mean, I just can't even believe this. You've been connecting dots. What? Chris,
It all
give your opinion about something. You don't have to come in here and be like.
Started with his trail of intimidating women at WSU who did nothing about it.
no, not at all, Nancy. And you have been connecting these dots from day one. And let's take it one step further after the murders, right? We have all of this pre-incident behavior that are just huge red flags. But what about when the cops find the white Elantra? And they do what? Oh, they just said, oh, we made a mistake. A mistake? Are you kidding me? Do you imagine all that evidence that was lost just within a week after the homicides?
What?
This was incompetence at its finest hour.
What?
To Eric Faddis joining us.
Wait a second. What is he even talking about?
File lawyer.
Me? The incident be one step connected.
Did nothing about it.
No, not at all, Nancy. And you have been connecting these dots from day one. And let's take it one step further after the murders, right? We have all of this pre-incident behavior that are just huge red flags. But what about when the cops find the white Elantra? And they do what? Oh, they just said, oh, we made a mistake. A mistake? Are you kidding me?
What is he talking about? When they find the white Elantra and they do what? We made a mistake. What the fuck is he talking? What mistake did they make? What is going on here? What walked into my last 2 minutes of my show?
Do you imagine all that evidence that was lost just within a week after the homicides? Lost just within a week after the homicides?
Look at that car right there.
This was incompetence at its finest hour.
To Eric Faddis joining us.
You guys, was that the year they had his car on 11/25? The year had nothing to do. Incompetence. Dude, I gotta go. I don't know if maybe she clipped what she said and then she brings him on a question that she didn't ask. He makes absolutely no sense. What evidence was lost? Does he mean the car? But you guys, just because of the car year, they still had the car. The car year doesn't do anything, doesn't change anything. What is he talking about? The only evidence that was lost for a week? What is he talking about? Somebody needs to ask him on his show what he is talking about. I gotta go. I love you guys. Have a good night. Take care. We'll see you back here tomorrow. We got another snow day here in lovely Ohio. Yeah, baby. Snowy, snowy, snowy. We got more snow. We got more snow than Vail. All right. Okay. Good night. Bye-bye.